What's up, y'all? I'm
Waiting
Deeg.
for
It's
it.
the Deeg podcast.
Hey,
Camikaze78 on the other side. What's up, brother?
how's it going, guys? It's good to see you, Deeg. I'm doing well, my friend. How about yourself?
I'm
Welcome,
doing
welcome, welcome.
fantastic.
Great to be back here again, man. Always enjoy our
Absolutely.
conversations.
Oh, me too. In fact, I was just reviewing the last time we talked. It was like a little over a
Oh
year
wow.
ago. I think it was just after the Shattered Warp Gate came out for Planetside. And there was,
Yeah.
I was listening to that conversation thinking, oh, we were so young. We were so
Oh, we
young
were.
back then. We
Oh,
hardly knew what was in store for us. Um,
so young and naive.
but it was a good talk, and I couldn't be more thrilled to reconnect with you. You're like one
Yeah.
of, I think, the most important voices in Planetside too. I love your content, still love your content. We're gonna talk about some of it today, but before we get into any of that, I
Mhm.
just gotta ask, like, how the hell are you? Like, it's been a while.
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. It certainly has been a while, as you said, about a year and a half now.
Yeah. How's
Yeah,
streaming? How's content?
I've been good. I've been good. Yeah, sort of went through a bit of a lull last year, like middle of last year, due to personal stuff and like real life getting in the way, as it always does. I'm sure we've all been there
Absolutely.
before. But yeah, sort of came back swinging late last year, and made the switch to YouTube full time. Well,
Mm.
sorry, full time. I say that as if I'm not streaming on Twitch anymore. So now doing all my stuff on YouTube as opposed to Twitch, and that's been exciting. It's been um, yeah, a lot of fun, a lot of fun lately, and it's been good reconnecting with the community and riding the wave that Planetside and what the gaming industry has been doing as a whole lately.
Mhm.
It's been eventful this past year, I'd say.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say, yeah, I'm not going to say good across the board, but it's been eventful, and that's been exciting as a content creator, I feel. Um,
Absolutely. All. What's the saying? No such thing as bad news when it comes to content creation.
yeah, yeah, that statement does carry quite a bit of truth there,
Word.
as it always does. But yeah, no, it's been good, man. It's been good. How about yourself? How's the content side of things been for you lately? What have you been up to across the board? Like I've been checking out your streams on YouTube lately.
Yeah.
Congratulations on joining Team
Yes.
Red, by the way.
We both made the YouTube switch.
We
Things have been
did.
okay. Actually, before I talk about me, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your last year, the time off.
Sure.
Like, what's it like taking time off from content and getting back into it? Like, did you when you took
Yeah.
that downtime, did you feel like, yeah, I'm definitely going to get back into it. I can't wait. Like what's
Yeah.
that like?
Well, like the downtime for me last year, and it wasn't really, I guess, a hard downtime. Like I sort of slogged through just at a slower pace because I had a bunch of stuff happen IRL that meant that I wasn't in the headspace to do content in a way in which I thought I could at a regular pace. Like just
Absolutely.
person personal things got in the way, which I won't get into today because that's all behind us and everything's all good. But yeah, things happened. And I just decided that I would sort of take a step back, focus on my career, focus on, me getting out there and getting back into hobbies like photography and stuff like that. Um,
Kind of recentering back on yourself.
yeah, exactly right. And then
Yeah.
and then once, content started to hit again soon, and once,
Mhm.
new opportunities started emerging in that content creation space, I thought, okay, now's the
Battlefield.
time to get back into it. Oh, it hurts my soul every
I saw
time,
that
and
you
I don't
made
have a
made made
soul,
a
so
jolly old try with Battlefield. You were
yeah, I
making
really
content,
did.
you were gonna make a go for it, and then
I landed a sponsorship deal with EA for
that's
the
so
launch
cool,
event of the
actually.
game.
Congrats on that. Even if it didn't
Th-
pan out, that's very cool.
yeah, thank you. I was very excited, and I was in a very interesting position to sort of help branch out a bit, I guess, from Planetside because every content creator who has an ambition to go further than their seed game, I guess would be the best way to call it. You need to branch out, and I thought that would be an excellent opportunity to do so.
Yeah?
And then Battlefield 2042 released the way it did. Um,
So when you say
so
C game, you mean like you're doing the content game, like in your off time, after you do your day job that actually supports your life. Is that what you're saying? that what you mean?
So yeah, when I said seed game, I'm more talking about like, like every content creator I think nowadays, in order to sort of get anywhere, has a game where they sort of build their community off of, and
Hmm.
then you diversify from there.
I need to
Essentially,
know
like
about this. Tell me
find.
about this.
Well, I like to me, like most content creators will latch onto something that they're comfortable with. Their
Okay.
seed game for me, it's Planetside.
Oh,
You know,
seed. Got it. Got it. Okay. I thought you
yeah,
meant like the letter
yeah.
C. Ah, that's my ears.
Oh no, 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 no. Yeah, yeah. You seed, yeah, as in like you plant the seed sort
Yeah,
of
your
thing. Like
base. Establish your base. You get
correct.
your foundation, your community foundation.
Yeah, exactly. And there's definitely ways in which you can diversify your content from that seed. I think, like for me, like it'd be first person shooters and stuff like that. So yeah, like obviously getting into new areas, I thought Battlefield would be that opportunity, and then EA'd it. I don't mean to throw the shade where it is, but
What a
it has
sad
to be
moment.
said.
What a sad moment.
Really disappointing. Really
Yeah.
disappointing. We were all hoping,
Yeah,
and
I'm no Battlefield fan, but I ache for anyone who is because it just seems like it's been a few years of straight L's.
yeah, like we're talking, yeah, Battlefield 5, and that game's lifespan was horrendous. And then
Mhm.
Battlefield 2042 was meant to be this sort of this prodigy son, like this prodigy child to come out and save us.
Well, it was
And
in
then
the marketing, they were really calling back, right? They were trying to say,
they
"Remember
were.
Battlefield? Remember what made Battlefield amazing? We're going back to that." And
Yeah,
then did
exactly.
they?
And then no, not at all. Like they reinvented a lot of the wheel. It was bad. Like
That's
I
tough.
was and I was cautiously optimistic. Like, okay, maybe the specialist system could be cool.
Mhm.
128 players, good scale. Like more can sometimes be better if the maps are good, and nothing worked. It was such a
Mm,
shame.
damn. Yeah, and
It
then
was such a shame.
as a creator, what is it like to realize that partnership that you've landed, that branch out that you're going for, what is it like? Was there a moment where you were like, "You know what? I'm not digging this. It's not working, but I should keep making content anyway." How do you decide to stop?
It was tough. Like when the game first came out, I thought, okay, it's Battlefield has launched rough, and it traditionally has done so. Like Battlefield 4, I remember had one of the worst launches in the franchise's history, and now is revered in the community. So I thought,
Mm,
okay,
mm,
maybe Dice can get their shit together quickly here and bring it home. Um, and I made some content for the game. I was being cautiously optimistic, but I have to be real. My partnership requirements with EA, I guess you could
mhm,
say, were that I need to do a launch stream on the game when it
mhm.
officially launched, and I had to do a video to follow up.
Okay.
Um, and my initial plans were to do a video like reviewing the game, do a review of the game. But I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to be honest with the viewers and review the game right now as it stands, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna lose this partnership. So
Mm,
I actually completely redid the video, turned it into a how to play Battlefield video, essentially like
mhm.
a tips and tricks thing.
Yeah, like a new
Did
player
that,
guide.
and then I
Mhm.
did my review. Um, and still satisfied the means of the deal essentially. But like full transparency, that had to happen. Otherwise, no paycheck essentially. But
Yeah. That's an interesting that's, never
uh,
something I've had to deal with when it comes to content. I'm still itty bitty, but
yeah,
is that your first
it was
time
a very
dealing with that kind of thing, or have you had those kinds of partnerships before?
That was the first time I'd had a paid partnership.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Like I've received giveaway codes and contras and stuff like that, but I've never done a
Yeah,
paid deal. Um, and there was nothing in the contract that says I couldn't criticize the game. Like I was allowed to be honest,
right.
but at the same time, I wanted to hit on a few points about the game and about the culture in which it got released and stuff like that. That I just said to myself, the best of both worlds. I was gonna do a tips and tricks video anyway, push that forward, make that the sponsored video, push the review back, do that, just swap it around. I thought I was still being at least a little morally ethical about the content and about how it
Yeah,
came out essentially. Because that's a huge thing. Because obviously, I got it all the time, like, oh, this is an EA shill. This is an EA shill. He's accepting payment. He's not
right.
talking about the problems. And like you deal with it, and you write those comments off, because I knew myself that I was going to do that content anyway. It just changed. So yeah, anyway, it
Mm,
was a whole thing, and I spent maybe 2-3 weeks after the sponsorship ended doing Battlefield content, and then I had a schedule of 2 months worth of stuff ready to go, and I
oh,
culled it, just culled it completely.
oh, that's brutal.
Um, it was a very, very hard deleting spree, essentially. Yeah.
Oh, to lose that kind of work, that planning, because making content like the kind you make, like, how much time do you think it takes you to, like, make a video like that?
It sort of depends. Like, it depends on like graphics, scripting, like
Yeah,
the people who like the videos where I do like that's like a weapon review, I guess you could say, like where
yeah,
there's
the
like
Planetside,
actual infographics and
right, where you're saying, "Here's the weapon does, here's the fall off range, here's the spread," all
yeah,
that kind of stuff.
exactly. Like that'll probably take 8 to 10 hours just for editing, scripting, and that excluding gameplay capturing, because that can stretch few and far between depending on the challenge of the weapon and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
And do you
Um,
cannibalize your stream to get the clips for the weapons?
Yeah, so whenever I'm
Yeah.
streaming, I'll have shadow play running in the background, like collecting footage and stuff like that to
Sure,
try
sure.
and consolidate the effort. The weapon, the LMG tier list I did for Planetside a couple of months ago, that took easily 30+ hours just due to the amount of graphics that were required. So
Yeah.
that took a long time.
Oof. It takes a long time to make something like this.
Sorry.
It takes a long time to make content, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see a lot of people decide that they just want to like. I see a lot of people just like go, oh, how hard could it be? And it's like, well, you know,
Surprisingly hard.
surprise. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like, even a big part of what I do with the podcast, everything about what I
mm,
do, a huge part of it is, what can I do if I apply myself for 10 hours a week to doing
yeah,
something content-wise?
yeah,
And the best compromise I could come up with based on what I'm good at and what I like doing is this. Um,
yeah,
like, maybe 30 to 40% of that time is actually sitting down having the conversation, which to me is the fun part. And the
yeah,
rest of it
and
is,
it's the content.
yeah, planning, research, and then I don't do hardly any editing, but the post-production still takes time. Um,
Yeah, of course.
every single podcast that I do, I have to go back and listen to the whole thing all over again, because not only do I have to record it, but I have to sell it to people to say, "Why would you listen to this podcast? Like,
Yeah,
what are the main things we talked about? What is interesting about it?" And those time codes when you have a 3-hour long video, like, it's kind of rude not to. So,
yeah. It's expected to get any kind of like audience retention rate, of course. Yeah,
yeah, anyway, people do much harder stuff than what I do, and the whole pipeline for me is about, what can I make that doesn't require editing?
yeah.
Because
No,
that is an
and
art
like
in unto itself, as you well know.
I have to say, like what you do here and stuff. Like, obviously, for me, it's heavily curated. But for you to like be able to sit down with somebody, create a show essentially, and make it entertaining and interesting in the way that you do for so long, it's impressive, bro. Like, I couldn't do this. Like, this is a skill that I mad respect.
Well, thank
Um,
you. Thank you.
no, of course, because like this kind of thing, I couldn't do. Like, this is something that, yeah, is
Yeah,
not in
it's
my
a
skill set, so
as you pointed out, it's a skill. It's something that you can work
100%.
on. Um, like, if I had to reflect on where it comes from, so
Yeah.
when I first met my wife, we were
Yeah.
we were remote. We were apart from each other. Like, she
Oh,
corresponded
wow.
online for like a whole year before we met in person. And it was, like, weird, like, we like each other, but, like, we're far away, but, like, are we e-dating? But, like, does that exist? Like, is this fake? Is this real? I don't know. This was back in 2009, right? So, before we
Wow.
had a lot of tools and stuff we have now.
Of
And
course.
then,
I was still I was still much young in there, my god.
yeah, total whippersnapper over here, Kamikaze.
Yeah,
How old are you
exactly.
now?
24, turning 25 soon,
There it
so
is. There it is. I always wondered
big
what
old
the
25.
78 in your name came from because that can't be the year you were born.
Oh, this is a story I've told many a time, many a time.
Oh, yeah? Well, let me finish this, and then I'll ask you about that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, and then life happened. I got a tech job. I'm doing
Of
technical
course.
support. I have to talk to customers. I realized I like talking to customers more than I like doing the tech part. So I evolved
Yeah,
my career over years to be more about talking to people, and it ends up to leading conference calls. And that ability to lead a conference call and have a customer narrative like fits very nicely into doing this.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
kind of
You
where it
build
came
that
from.
skill set. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
But yeah, so what's the 78?
So, believe it or not, it's a total typo. It is a total typo.
Okay.
Um, and back in my, baby Cammy days where I got my first Xbox 360, and of course I wanted to play online with my friends.
Of course.
So I had to come up with a handle, and Kamikaze was only fair because Cam's my real name, and I was terrible at flying in games at this time. So I
Okay.
thought, okay, bit of wordplay, Kamikaze, we'll work with that. But the name was taken, naturally so. Um, so I decided to, I had to add some numbers on there. And I thought, what is the number attached to my email handle? Because I had that as well. I thought, okay, well, just for sake, I'll put that in there. Terrible for security, we know this, but young and naive, dumb. Um, so I thought it was 78. So I put 78 down. Turns out it was 28, but 78 has a much better ring to it, so it is a total typo. Um,
Hmm.
but for the better, I think, at the end of the day. At the end, it could have been Kamikaze 28. It doesn't have the same ring to it, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. The few extra syllables
Yeah,
give it something.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
it's more
total typo.
balanced. The way
Yeah,
we name
yeah, I
ourselves
agree.
online is so interesting, isn't it? Because in the real world, we don't like get to give ourselves our own nicknames, do we?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Not really. We always have nicknames sort of forced upon us. And,
Yeah. What about you? Have you ever had a nickname forced on you that you particularly liked or particularly disliked?
oh, let's be real here. The red hair
All
has
right.
left me with plenty of nicknames over the years. Most I don't care about.
How about
Like at the end of
something
the day, it
not
is what
red
it.
hair related?
Um, no, not really. Not really. No,
Mm,
it's no. My hair has definitely taken the brunt of it these days. But again, it doesn't like Ranger is the clear one for good
right.
old Australian. Yeah,
Right.
for good old Aussie down under here.
Yeah.
Um, and I just adopted it. I was like, all right, sure, whatever. Uh,
It's good to have a thing.
but
It's good to have a thing. See, for me,
exactly.
I grew up being the size I grew up. And
Okay.
playing baseball, which I did until a certain age
Ooh,
where
yeah.
where coach looked at me straight in the face and was like, "Greg, I like you. You're too fat to play baseball. Lose the weight or go do something else." So I chose plan B. But anyway, I
Yeah.
earned the nickname Big House.
Oh,
And
wow.
I ugh, I was not
No,
no, I mean,
I'm not a fan.
like it's not
Yeah.
like I was tall, right?
No, no. It
I'm
was
not
very much taking
I'm
stabs
above
elsewhere,
average
yep.
height, but I'm not super tall or anything. So
Sure,
I don't know. It's not
sure.
something you want to be known for, but you wear it with pride. Because if you
No,
don't wear it with pride, then you're not a man.
you're not ma yeah, exactly. You're not taking it in full stride. No, I
Yeah,
understand that.
yeah. And when I had to pick my name, Deeg, it was
Mm,
because I was about to go play Overwatch with some of my coworkers, and at the time,
okay.
I had been using the handle Darth Greg since I was 13 years
Okay.
old, and I was at that time
Yep.
33, so about 20 years, something like that.
Sure.
I thought to myself, I can't imagine calling myself Darth Greg in front of these people. I can't imagine it. Like, it's just too embarrassing. I need to come up
Yep.
with a new handle. So I took the D and the G, and I tried to
Mm.
think about what I could do with DG, and I just put a phoneme in between it, and it's Deeg. So
Deeg. It
that's
works.
where Deeg comes from.
Works. That works
Very
very well.
fascinating
It works
stuff.
very well. It's interesting the way in which we name each other, 100%, all about online identity and stuff like that. I agree.
Hmm. Yeah, the
Mm.
Planetside scene is one of these places where names are thrown out a lot, isn't it?
It is. It is, and Planetside in general has been a very interesting scene to watch lately.
Mhm.
From not only from close up, but actually from afar too. Like when I was on holiday recently, like just this past week, um, I noticed a few videos got released, and I won't go into it too much here because I don't like I don't like getting into creator drama. I don't like getting into drama. Full stop. I just like to
Hmm.
do my thing, live my life, have my fun.
I've noticed that about you. You're really good at just doing your thing, which is
Yeah, I
I think it's commendable.
thanks, man. I just don't care for it. I really don't. Like, if someone has a problem with me, they can come talk to me about it. If they're going to attack me directly, I just won't care about what they have to say. If they've got a critique for my content, come speak to me about it, and then we'll talk. I, I,
Mhm.
that's all I'm about. Like, I don't care for getting into, you know, drama and throwing names, and it's just to me, it's just time wasting.
Do you
It's
find it
it's
to be
it's
hard to
attention that
stay
I
out
could
of?
um by association, I guess. Like I consider myself either friends or good acquaintances with a lot of very notable figures in the community, and
Mhm.
um, when a couple of them draw lines in the sand with each other, and you still want to be friends with both of them, it's like, well, do I am I drawing lines in the sand myself by association? Am I? It's tough, and
Yeah, it is tough.
I remember watching
I had to
yours
ask
and
myself that
Commander.
question recently too. I think I came with a very different response to it. Like, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was watching yours and Commander Sirius's
Mm.
podcast. I think you did last week, and I remember
Yeah.
you saying, "I just want all my friends to be friends,"
Yeah.
um, and
Hell
it's the
yeah.
same with me. Like
It's painful
I
when
have,
it's
I
anything
have,
other than that.
I agree, and like I have a great respect for a lot of people in this community, and I know not a lot of them mesh with each other, and it's hard. Sometimes you find yourself being the conduit between two communities, and you
Yeah.
find yourself being you find yourself like with those communities clashing quite a bit, and you've got to act as mediator or moderator at times. And
Yeah.
I just don't care
That's
for the
fair.
drama. I don't care for it. I don't care for any kind of arguing. I don't care for. I rather we just all learn to at times agree to disagree. Make sure we respect each other's points, and
Mhm.
hear each other out and talk. And but that's just me, and I know that's a perfect world that potentially doesn't exist. So
Yeah, well, I really sympathize with that. Actually, I empathize with that. And let me tell you,
mm,
before I sat down to talk to Sirius last week, um,
yeah,
I was excited to talk to him about Oshur. That's the main thing I wanted
yeah,
to talk to him about because it's out, and I think it's
cool,
actually really cool. And I think that there are a lot of things about it that people aren't thinking about yet. And I want to
yeah,
get into that with you. But as
yeah,
I
of
was doing my
course,
research, which I always do, I was going back through stuff, and I just saw the beef play out, and I was thinking to
yeah,
myself, I thought, this is awful. This is horrifying.
hmm
I'm friends with both of these people. Like, if you see the podcast
yeah,
I do with Shockter, if you see the podcast I did with Sirius, and then you
yeah,
see me sit down and talk, and then you saw the beef, and you see me talk to Sirius again. It's like, well, how could they not talk about this stuff? It
yeah,
seems inauthentic in a way, and so I felt like I
yeah,
had to address it. I didn't know where it
of
was going to
course,
go. I really just put it out to Sirius, and shout out to him for being willing to talk about it. Um,
yeah, no,
I
that's fair,
learned before we sat down that he only had a short time to meet. He's super busy, so we did the best we
yeah,
could with it. I think we're going to have a part two discussion to do some more
yeah,
in the next few weeks or whenever he has time. But
yeah, that's fair,
that's how I chose to approach that.
yeah, and I think that's fair as a essentially a beacon for that. Like you yourself, you're a conduit for that conversation to exist. So that's a fair approach, I think. And
Yeah. Although I don't think everyone's very happy that I went back there. Uh,
I mean, look, obviously, at the end of the day, if if you're going to have that conversation, it's almost weird to bury the hatchet as well and not talk about it. Like
mm,
if you're acting as that that discussion point, then sometimes it is worth talking about. And I mean, it's out there. Clearly, it is.
mhm.
And you're someone who likes to get to know people, and I feel as though when people are doing that, that's a part of them. So you need to talk about it. Of course, I know that's
Yeah.
very much how you like to approach your content. All power to you, I reckon.
Aw, he knows me. I feel so
I know you.
touched. I feel so touched, man. I'd give you a hug right
Of
now.
course, bro. Big old international hug right here.
Absolutely. All the way around the earth.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, yeah, but yeah, like in general, I just prefer to do my thing. Like, I know I have opinions on the game, and I know I have opinions on, you know, how content should be done and stuff. Like, not everyone agrees with,
Mhm.
but if people don't agree with my opinion, but they respect me as a person, then I've got no beef. I've got no problem with that.
How do you orchestrate that? How do you get people to appreciate you even if they don't agree with your ideas?
I'm just a fan of, like, if you've got something against me, feel free, like, criticize my work. But if you come after me personally, then we've got a problem. But I'd also prefer to sort that out behind closed doors as
Has that
opposed to,
happened?
uh, I don't know. I don't know if I've really. I mean, I think the one person, I think at one point I've probably, like, I don't think we've necessarily had a problem with each other at any
Mhm.
given point in time, but the one person I've definitely grown closer with, I think, over the years, and have not reconciled but grown to understand more. And I think that's both ways, is Shokta. I mean,
Mm. Mhm.
I know him and I at times have shared different thoughts on the game. And I personally, I know him and I really were on opposing sides of the coin a couple of years ago as to how the game should be run and how the game should be played
Could you give me an
and how
example or
the game should.
2, like, what y'all disagreed
Uh,
about at the time?
like, the sandbox nature of the game, the balance of the game in regards to how vehicles and stuff like that should integrate, stuff like that.
So you thought
Um,
you thought games about tanks, and he thought the game's about infantry. Is that about right?
yeah, I very much lingered on, like, the whole prospect of, like, if a player is getting annihilated by, this insane heavy assault player, then, him pulling a max as a crutch isn't such a bad thing. But that's
Uh-huh.
an opinion of mine that's changed over the years with the balance of
Right.
the game.
Right.
Um, and and we've understood that, and, like, as we've grown closer and as we've helped each other, like, I helped him with his camera upgrade lately. I told him, I
Yeah,
gave
he
him
told
some
me about
advice on
that.
what camera. Yeah, I gave him some advice, tell him on what camera to buy,
Yeah.
what lens to get, how to set it up, stuff like that. We had a good chat about that.
Dude,
Um,
thank God for people like you who know this kind of stuff. Because if you search at Google for that kind of information, God help you.
it's impossible, I know. Yeah,
You
no,
got you gotta get a recommendation from someone you trust. It's the only way.
no, I appreciate it, man. No, but, like, yeah, so, like Shokta and I think we've grown closer. Like, again, it hasn't been really been a reconciliation. It's been more or less just an understanding, I think.
You've
A
grown
greater
together in
understanding.
terms of your ideas and the way that you see the game and the community.
I agree, and I think we now see our contexts and our understanding with a bit more context as a result, which I
Oh,
think is very important.
mhm.
Um,
I love that. That's the way it should work.
I agree. I 100% agree. It's just we all know that drama creates audience, unfortunately. So,
Interesting, isn't that?
yeah,
Thought about that. Thought about that. Maybe this is navel gazing, but I was thinking about
go on.
drama the other day. And what is
Yeah.
drama? Like when people invoke drama, what are they thinking about? And the best,
Yeah.
most concise kind of explanation I could come up with was conflict without resolution.
Ooh. Ooh, I like that. Yeah, that's a
Mhm.
very good way to put it. Yeah. Yeah, it's the art of creating a conflict without the intention to create a resolution in the same conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. Or even at any
No.
point, perhaps.
Mm.
So when people say that
Yeah.
they are trying to avoid drama, usually what that means is that they're trying to reduce the conflict. They're trying to avoid the conflict.
Yeah.
And but there also can be, I think, value in trying to instead of trying to reduce trauma by avoiding conflict, you try to reduce trauma by pursuing resolution. And it's
I
a lot
agree. I
harder. It's
agree.
it's in fact it's so hard to do that I, I think it's very hard to unambiguously resolve any kind of community beef or disagreements about philosophies of game development, design, direction, all this stuff. But I
Yeah.
also I also
Like,
think that
obvious.
if you pursue it, you open up the possibility of people to respect each other in a way
Yep.
that can't happen if we all just kind of agree to sit on our side of no man's land.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And when you have such, harshly drawn lines in the sand, it does make it hard to generate sort of conversations that opens up a perspective to both sides of an argument, I think.
Mhm.
And like, the way in which the online world works right now, this is something I studied a lot in university, is just how much echo
Right.
chambers exist.
You did media
Um,
studies, right? If I remember right?
yeah, I did a Bachelor of Media and Production.
Right. Echo
So
chambers. I remember we talked about this. Go on.
yeah, so like it's well, I see it a lot in the Planetside community where you have, and it's of no fault of the community at all. It's very much how content works in our time, where you have these different communities, you have these different cliques, if you will, these different segments of community that sort of cultivate together and will seek out validation of their side of the argument by finding people who agree with them.
Which is
But what you do
natural.
there,
It
which
happens
is
no matter
natural,
what you
exactly.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, in real life as well, we all seek to have our opinion and to have our side of an argument or our side of a belief validated.
Mhm.
Um, it's why clubs exist. It's why political parties exist. It's why
Mhm.
even I'd say religion exists to a certain extent as well.
Even why
Uh,
we're talking at all. Like, it's a big part of it.
why we're
We're
talking at all.
we're seeking
Exactly.
consensus. We're
Um,
trying to see ourselves in the world.
correct. So when you have that, and when you throw in like algorithms and you throw in search results and you throw in that sort of stuff, it becomes so charged in such a forceful way that
Mm.
it's hard to find an opposing opinion out
Mhm.
there at times that can challenge you on the odd occasion, that can invite a healthy debate and a healthy conversation. And once you spend
Mhm.
enough time in that echo chamber, you just want to hear your validation over and over again. You get used to it. Um, it becomes almost it's like a drug at some point, I think.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, like a dopamine hit, like a yeah, yeah,
yeah, like a dopamine.
I'm still good.
Yeah, like
I
it's
I still know what's up.
oh yeah, I'm still right.
Yeah.
Like my opinion is valid. It's being backed up. So like, yeah, what we do see, I do see a lot of that being drawn, especially in the Planetside community, because there are, admittedly, a lot of ways to play this game. The health
Mhm.
of how you play how you play this game as a result of that can be argued depending on who you talk to
Mhm.
and that perspective. But
One of the things I remember you bringing up
I
last
guess,
time we talked was how what tends to happen with echo chambers. I think what you said is something along the lines of, you challenge people who have the impression that, everyone agrees this is crap. Like something comes into the game, some changes made. Everyone agrees this is crap. And you challenge
yep.
them, well, who have you actually asked? And if it's the same
Hmm.
people who you always play with, who you're always hanging out with and always validating your opinions, have you really
Yep.
gotten the consensus opinion or have you just validated your own? Um,
Yeah.
and to challenge people to go outside of their social comfort zone to question whether what
Yeah.
they think is actually true. And it's
Yeah.
it's hard to do. And especially when it comes to video games where we're all just kind of here to blow off steam. Like people aren't really making no one playing PlanetSide is really making a living from engaging with it.
No.
At least not on
No.
this side of
It's
the
impossible to
aisle.
do.
So it's like why would we put so much effort into making sure we're right?
Yeah.
Why bother? We're just here to fuck off after work after all. And
That's exactly right.
I don't know. I for some reason I think I really want to do this. I mean, this is why I started off by, talking to Rel, talking to Sirius U, and then I was like, no, I'm talking to Aflic, I'm talk to Shocked, and I'll talk to Lex. Like,
Mhm.
I want to talk to everyone. Um,
Yep.
because there's the most useful truth, I think, is when you combine the two is when you can combine two things that seem to be true but that conflict with each other.
Yep.
Um,
I agree.
it's like that's called dialectical reasoning
Mhm.
in psychological terms.
The most, I guess, permanent example I have of that recently was my Max Suit video. That was
Yeah. let's talk about
That was a
that.
fun one.
Let's talk
Oh
about that.
god.
The Max Suit
Oh
video. I watched
Jesus.
your Max Suit video. Um, Max
What were your
Suits.
thoughts on it? I'm curious.
I'm interviewing you, so I'm gonna ask you first. But
Oh, okay.
let me paint the picture first.
Yeah.
So Max Suits were always a part of Planetside. They've always been a part of the
They were.
formula. In Planetside
Yep.
1, Max Suits were in the same. You could pull them. They were interesting because you can pull them from infantry terminals, but they acted like vehicles because they had timers, which
Mhm.
vehicles also did in Planetside 1. They were restricted.
Yep.
And they were big armor, and they were focused on attacking a certain domain, right? Infantry, air, vehicle, whatever. Same
Sure.
thing in
Yep.
Planetside 2. But there was a time during Planetside 2's early development
Mhm.
where max suits didn't exist, where the game
Wow.
was actually didn't even have a third faction. I went back like a year ago, I think, and watched an interview that Kid Riot did with Matt Higbee. I think around the
Oh,
time
wow.
of the Daybreak acquisition, which would have been right before Higbee moved on. And
Mhm.
he said that originally the Planetside concept was two factions, TR versus NC. And it was
Yep.
gonna be more close to Battlefield in that sense. That was the original vision. And
Yeah.
he said, if I'm gonna be part of this, it's gotta have Vanu and it's gotta have Maxes. That was Higbee's that was his insistence. That was what he did. And ever since then,
Wow.
uh so now we have max suits where and I think that was a really interesting insight to have. But then and ever
Yeah.
since then in the community, they've been this very polarizing thing. Should people be able
Very.
to stay in a max suit all session long? Are
Yep.
th- max crashes are one of these things that seem very exciting, especially if you're an outsider. But if you're one of the people who has to fight against it, it seems like the opposite of exciting. It seems kind of boring in a
When you're
way.
on the receiving end of it, yeah.
Yeah. Um, and it brings the whole mind this whole like kind of conflict between what I think of as big planet side, which is like the planet side of like ants and constructions and
Yeah.
galaxies and tank columns
Yeah.
and Little Planet side, which is all about point holds and all about
Mhm.
IVI and all about KPM stuff
Yep.
like that.
Yeah. Headshot ratios, stuff like that.
And into the debate waded Camikaze78 with his Max Suit video. Why'd you make this video, man?
I don't know, like we all I guess have those things in the game that eventually start to annoy us. Like, and I'll admit I wrote that video a little charged. Like I'd
Mm.
there's a couple of max suit mains on Connery that were killing me time and time again. I was in the process of trying to get footage for other stuff. I was getting annoyed, and I was like, "All right, I'm done. Time to talk." And it the angle I wanted to take with the video was that the max suit is the only force multiplier in this game that has a consistent direct impact on an infantry fight, on a point hold, on a base capture in 99% of the bases in this game. But it's also the only thing that can be revived. It's the only thing that can, sprint. It's the only
Yeah,
thing that
it
can.
breaks all the rules.
It breaks all of the rules.
Hmm.
Um, and I got thinking more and more about it because I used to follow the opinion of max suits are fine because they act as a means for new players to get some kills. But the
Yeah,
more I thought about that, the more I realized, and after talking to other members of the community, and this is something I always try to do, is I always try to with my content and by I guess staying out of fights and stuff like that, I try to incite conversation between all sides of the community where I can. Like,
yeah.
I know, for example, Lex. He often stops by my stuff from time to time,
Hmm.
and we have a good chat from time to time about stuff. People like Baddie. I've talked a bit with Leroy in the past.
Yeah.
Shockter, obviously,
Hmm.
and then I've got your more. I get because you would consider those the higher echelon players, the more skill orientated players, your
Yeah,
players who like the more raw IVI experience, the more infantry experience.
absolutely.
Um, and then you've got, your big Planetside guys as well. Like I've talked a lot with Orbi Manager from SKL.
Hmm.
I've talked a lot with those guys. So you get a lot of opinions and stuff like that, and you get a lot of you get a lot of perspectives, I guess.
That's laudable to cast such a wide net.
That's I try to do that because I think and I'll get more into this in a bit
It
later
goes
about
back to
like
to 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 fighting the echo chamber stuff we were talking about a minute ago.
it does, but to me, it also comes down to ensuring that you have an authority to talk on things
Mm.
and come from a place of authority. But we'll get into that a bit later.
Okay. Okay.
Very, very important stuff, I think. But
Yeah,
anyway,
that's a
um,
potentially, explosive topic, but go on.
it could be, yes. But I sort of got thinking more and more about max suits and their implementation and the fact that, they do act as this crutch for new players. But
Okay.
as soon as you give new players a crutch, what happens is as soon as you put anyone who's worth their salt into that tool, it breaks the balance immediately.
Right.
Like immediately so. Um, as soon as you give a player nano boosts, as soon as you give a player membership, as soon as you give a player any decent degree of battle awareness, as soon as you give them two engineers that know what they're doing to back them, they
Yeah.
can main that max suit and they can sit in it all session. I proved it by playing on a stream for 4 hours and I didn't get out of my max suit once.
Shit.
Um, and like, I ended on a 10 KDR. Like,
Yeah, it sounds about right.
yeah, and it's like, and to
Which
me,
if you pull a
that shouldn't.
max, getting 10 kills, like, that seems like a good return on on your, nanite investment.
Mm,
But really,
it
because
does
you're never deprived of nanites in that process, it's actually sort of like an infinite return in a way.
exactly, and like the way I see it, the max suit. I like the. I think the max suit in the game should very much, be there. Like it has it has the potential to be a tactical weight option that is pulled for very tight fights. Like, we're talking last 30-second caps. You pull this one force multiplier for a squad of 12 to try and, budge your way onto a point at the
Yeah.
last minute.
Put it over the
That
edge.
could exactly.
Yeah.
But the way I see it, the max suit should not be this sort of tidal wave, especially when pulled in mass, that can then be replicated consistently across your session for hours on end. It
Mhm.
should be this tactical item that you pull. Well, I use the word tactical, but it should be this force multiplier that requires the same amount of decision making and investment to pull that it's going to reward you with during the process of the pull.
Yeah.
Um,
Like pulling a tank or pulling an aircraft.
Correct. Correct. And even then, like the investment that takes from the other player to kill you, only for you to then print a brand new one, that sort of to me removes the reward of the cat and mouse experience that comes from that.
Mhm.
Like if I kill a max suit player and he just comes back with a brand new one, my time invested has been ruined. Um, and yeah, to me that's not good design at the end of the day. I do wish it was more about. And I do wish it was more about there being an active decision to do so without it just being "Oh, I've died a few times. Fuck this guy in particular. I'm gonna go pull a
Mhm.
max suit to kill his ass," which happens a
Mhm.
lot. Um,
One of the
and I
things.
think by doing that.
Yeah, yeah, go.
Sorry?
No, I was gonna jump in. Please go on.
I was just gonna say, and I think the way you do that is by actually creating some degree of risk to the pool. And
Mhm.
to me, that's, upping up the cost of the nanites for one, making it worth its salt. But in addition to that, actually, in placing a timer that punishes you for being over relentless with it. It punishes you in the sense that you can't go and pull another max suit at the next text straight away. And they can't, by not making them revivable, you have to play smart. You have to play with your nanites in accordance of the sense that you want to keep them for that fight.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I'm totally sympathetic to this argument, and the first time I think I heard it would have been when I interviewed a flick. God, I don't know how long
Yeah.
ago that was. I think it was around the
Yeah.
same time I interviewed you the
Yeah.
first time, and his kind of, argument was something along the lines of, people say that one of the worst things about Planetside is getting is new players getting farmed by, 5
Yeah.
KD heavy assaults. And his kind of retort to that is to say, "Well, if you think that's bad, how's it feel to get air to ground farmed?" when you spawn at a random fight that looks even, and you not be able to
Couldn't agree
leave your
more.
spawn room because there's a banshee camping you. How's it feel to
Yep.
get to not be able to approach a point because you have two guys in lightnings hesh spamming from a position where they're more? It's very hard to attack them, especially as a new
Yeah.
player. You don't know how to strategically respond to those things, and even if you did hop in a
Yep.
tank or an aircraft, you'd be useless.
And you
Um,
don't, and you also don't know how to, you don't know how to redeploy out. You don't know what the redeploy meta is like. You don't know
yeah,
how, you know what, how to look for a good fight. You're totally reliant on the battle flow. And
yeah.
when that breaks,
It's kind of it's about access to the promise of Planetside.
yeah,
Access to the sort of commitment that's made in the way the game presents itself. And how do you get to that?
yeah,
And what's
agreed.
standing in the way of that? And his suggestion is a lot like what you're talking about, um, where to say either something's a force multiplier or it's not. If it's force multiplier, it should
Yep,
an investment should be required in order to procure one. And if the
yep,
investment is not painful at all, then it's not high enough.
yep.
And with things
I couldn't agree more.
like nanite boosters, just also seeming kind of pay to win in that context, if you look at it that way.
Yeah,
Although
yeah.
you don't necessarily need them to chain pull stuff once you get to a certain skill
No,
level. I don't know. It's all very
no.
muddy.
I
But
agree.
one of the things that I find myself trying to do whenever I hear these kinds of like, okay, like we're trying to find the right point on a continuum, right? On this
Hmm.
side is everyone gets to play however they want all the time, right?
Yep,
You're gonna role play as I am 100% X. I'm just a prowler driver. That's all I do. I'm gonna drive a prowler all day long, no matter what, no matter what's going on in the fight. I don't care. If there's a fight going
yep.
on the point, I don't care. Or on the other
Hmm.
side, where it's like, no, um, you're supposed to be playing infantry unless there's a force multiplier prompt that you're responding to. And
Yep,
you invoke those force multipliers in sort of a rock, paper, scissors way,
yep,
where the strategy game is a layer that sits on top of the sort of base layer, which is I think
yep.
an extreme that is very um, appealing to the small planet side proponents, the infantry players, the IVI guys, the
Yeah,
KPM guys.
yeah.
Um, but we're talking about where in the middle to go with that. So what I'd like to do is to try to figure out how far we can push it.
Hmm.
So let's say that we're saying maxes currently are too accessible. We need to make them
Yep,
less accessible. How much access is
yep.
the right amount of access? I think to myself, okay, well, what if everything in the game wasn't always accessible? What if there were timers and nanite costs on heavy assault, on light assault, on non-support infantry classes, let's say?
Hmm.
What if we had certain weapons that had timers or resource costs, like shotguns that a lot of people hate fighting against,
Yep.
or I don't know, what's a really loathsome weapon? How about anything that has an AOE effect, like a lasher or a
Thumper,
thumper,
lasher. Yep.
or the new seeker crossbow, something like that.
Oh God. Yep.
So how far can we push that? How much
Yeah.
of the game can be put behind that wall before it breaks?
Mm.
What do you think?
It's a tough one. That's actually a concept. Like to me, I've only ever extended that concept per se to the force multiplier side of the game.
Mhm.
Um, and I think as
But the
far as the
max
core
kind of begs
infantry
the
battle,
question because it's kind of part of the infantry game. Anyway,
it's
I should
part.
interrupt.
Yeah, yeah. It's part of the infantry game. I don't. Yeah, I definitely sit on the side of it being like it is like the max suit is technically part of the infantry game. I agree with that, but I don't think it's a class. That's where I draw the line. It's not a To me, it's not a
What's a
standard
class?
class.
What's that mean?
To me, a class is a like it's a we're talking 1,000 HP, or if you're in the case of the infantry, 900 HP. You've got like this set criteria, right? You've got a tool, you've got an ability, you've got primary, secondary weapon, you've got you got either supportive, offensive, stuff like that. Like you have a role per
Yeah.
se.
Mhm.
You have like this set criteria of HP to firepower. Most weapons across the board fall into certain criteria. They fall into certain time to kill values that make them, good in certain areas. The max suit breaks a lot of these rules and doesn't necessarily give up a whole lot to do so. The way I look at it
Okay.
from the balance perspective, like it gets double the HP. Sure, it moves a little slower, but typically it can still crouch, it can still jump, it can still maintain it can maintain a lot of the core movement aspects of a lot of classes.
Mhm.
It technically has double the firepower, double the durability, and a lot of it. Like the max suit, to me, exerts a lot more power than other infantry classes do in the first place, which to me then warrants it being considered a force multiplier as such.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and I don't have a problem with people doing well in force multipliers. Like I get it,
Yeah.
force multipliers in some aspects are designed to do well in. Um, Obviously there's areas of the game where force multipliers and their performance need to be tuned in a bit. I think air to ground or Hesh in particular, great examples of this. Um,
Yeah.
but to me, where the force multiplier question breaks is when you make a force multiplier when you balance a force multiplier around everyone should be able to do well in this thing, full stop. Like the way I see it, a force multiplier you should be able to do well in, but you need to exert at least some degree of
So it should have some kind of a
not to sound
downside, a vulnerability, something it's bad at.
there needs to be, in my opinion, some neuron activation to make a force multiplier work. There needs to be some thinking behind it. There needs to be a little bit of skill.
Okay, but
Like,
devil's advocate though, aren't the force multipliers of the game sort of in that rock paper scissors style? Like once you've played the rock,
oh yeah,
there's no neuron activation needed. Either you've
oh
hit a
yeah,
scissor or you've hit a paper. Like isn't that
oh I agree with that.
isn't the whole idea behind force multipliers that you make that decision at the equipment terminal?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I agree. Like at that
I'm
that
playing devil's
decision right
advocate by the
there.
way because I basically agree with you, but go on.
Yeah, no, no, no. Fair enough. I no. This again. This is why I like our conversations, my friend.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, no. I like that decision to pull something. I agree. Like should like that's the neuron activate. Like you're looking at a fight. Like okay, maybe I should pull an AP tank, or maybe I should pull a Sky Guard, or maybe I should
Right.
pull an air-to-air Reaper to deal with that bash, whatever. But um, Um, a max suit to me, there's not much neuron activation there if you're in an infantry fight. You see a doorway with a bunch of infantry in there, you're like, okay, I can just pull this thing and do instantly well in it.
Mhm.
Um, it takes in like I don't think a max suit or anything for that matter should be balanced around the idea of okay, if you pull this thing, you're going to do well in it because it doesn't take that much critical gameplay thinking to do well with. Like you
Mhm.
can't give something that much power, in my opinion, and then set the skill floor so low to the point where it's an instant win. There needs to be at
Mm.
least of some degree of an ability to play it. Like you need to be able to play well to make it work. It needs to be situational. It needs to be it needs to have some degree of trade to make it work. I think you
Trade.
can't like
So you give to
yeah.
get, that kind of idea.
Mm.
And what does a
Like
max
if
give
I'm getting
up? They can't capture points. What else can a
yeah.
max not do? Can't get in a lot of vehicles, right?
Sorry, what was that?
I'm asking myself, what does a max give up in order to get what it is? Like, what is the trade-off of pulling a max?
There's not really much, really, besides slightly slower movement speed and the ability to undeploy.
Okay.
To not redeploy, sorry. Yeah.
Wait, so maxes can't redeploy? Oh,
Once you hit
you
U, if
lose
you
the
hit the
max
U
suit.
key, yeah, correct, correct.
Okay. 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 Yeah, I've
Yeah.
I've actually on my current main, I've never loaded up a max suit, so I don't.
Whew, respectable, my friend. Respectable.
No, I'm actually terrible. Like this is a separate conversation probably, but I have so much enjoyed light assault playstyle of Planetside 2 that I've barely touched most of the rest of it. And
Yeah.
since Oshur's released, I've actually tried a bunch more different stuff, and it's
Yeah, of
funny,
course.
but the way you're describing going from playing, say, an infantry class to going to play a max is
Yeah.
also describes the way that I feel when I go from playing light assault to playing heavy assault.
Yeah, of
'Cause I
course.
feel
Yeah.
like I can play the game without activating my neurons. Like, I can just
Yeah.
press overshield, quick
It's
heads, rather than
yeah, yeah,
actually
yeah.
use my brain and position and speed and
Yeah.
outplay people. I can just out tank them,
Yeah.
outshoot.
Yeah, and yeah, I could agree with that. I think the big difference there for me is that with that decision you're making there, you're choosing to activate a certain play style that
Mhm.
it's not necessarily I don't think it's necessarily in that situation because you can. It's because the situation may very well encourage you to do something differently, right?
Yeah. Yeah, like, for
Yeah.
example, like, what happens a lot of times is as a light assault main, is
Mm,
there'll be fights where every single light assault angle is locked down. There'll
yeah.
be, snipers out on the rocks, which I fucking hate, by the way. The Hesh guy on the ridge, air
Uh-huh.
to ground, all these things shut down. Like they particularly punish people who play light assault because without the ability to flank,
Yep.
we're just heavy assaults with small magazines and no overshield.
Yep. Which means that, you're encouraged to play a different way, not because you can, but because that's what the situation presents to you, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I've been
To
trying to
me, with
play
the
the
max
game
suit,
more in like that rock paper scissors style. Like, oh, like what how can I actually make a difference here instead of just
yeah,
trying to make work the thing that I feel like is the part of me that exists in Planetside.
yeah. And to me, the reason that we choose these different classes in the
Mhm.
game between infiltrator, heavy assault, light assaults, combat medic engineer, we have those reasons that we pick those classes for those particular situations. I guess the reason I posit that the max suit's a problem right now is because there's not a lot of decision making behind pulling one of those right now in 99% of fights
Yeah.
outside of the reason of because I can.
Mhm.
Um, because you just pull one, you go and get some kills. You may end up taking the base back by proximity of your allies moving in behind you. It's just you can because you can, and yeah,
Yeah.
that's sort of why that's sort of where I sit with
Yeah.
it as a result of that. Like there's no decision making there other than because I can.
I feel you. I really do. I'm also smiling
Mm,
because Lex just pointed out something in the chat that is very true and made me laugh. Don't
don't
forget
forget
that Deeg doesn't know any of the base layouts because he's so used to just avoiding all of it. True. It's fucking true. That's what I love about Light Assault. I don't have to learn directions to go
Woo!
anywhere. I'm always just God forbid I get to an underground base. I get I and I have to learn the layout. That's the nightmare for me. It took
what's
me
what's that?
months to figure out my way around containment sites.
Yeah, just in the like doorways. I hardly know her. I'm gonna go on this roof instead.
Yeah, I prefer a tech plant where I just like point my map in the direction of where I want to go and jump just take care of the rest.
Exactly. Yeah. Love
Yeah.
to see it. You love to see it.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh
So
dear.
Max Suits, like what can we do about this? How can we strike a better balance?
I, g- I guess for me, it's like again, it's about at least creating some degree of an investment to the reward of pulling one, and
What should it be? Like
ensuring that.
let's theory craft for a minute. Let's be specific.
So my posited solutions were
Mhm.
increase the nanite cost to 650 nanites, which I admit, after talking to a few people, might be a little steep. Maybe
What's the
600,
current? Is it
maybe
450?
450.
Okay.
Same as an
And the
MBT
cap is
or a Liberator,
750.
I believe. Yeah, correct.
Okay.
So 650, 600 maybe would be a nice middle ground, I think.
Mhm.
But I also posited the solution potentially because a lot of people brought up like the whole, like, oh, what about AV? What about AA? And I'm like, well, in the current state, you could look at the stats so Varunda, for example, has on his API, um, like a grand total of like 89% of all max kills in the since September, I think, have been with infantry weapons.
Mm.
Um, and then like none of them have been like
So
to vehicles. So like,
kills that maxes are executing or kills against maxes?
kills that maxes are executing.
Got it. Got it.
Uh,
Yeah.
89%
So
against with
they're overwhelmingly used to fight infantry, not to.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I hear a lot of people like posit the argument of, oh, what about this sort of like, what about this sort of, play style? And I'm like, well, you need to balance from the position of the most affecting play style, I feel.
Mhm.
Not for the you can't like I don't like the argument of let's not fix this for the 4% of players that use it this way. That's not how you fix a problem. You
Mhm.
deal with the big problem and then you balance other things around the new cost and make it worth their while in their own right, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, we need, in my opinion, nanite cost should be increased or to warrant the cost. But I also posited that if you're wearing anti-infantry weaponry, the cost of the max suit goes up retroactively alongside that. So if you mount like 2 AI weapons, it's like 100 nanites per piece or something like that,
Ooh, now
maybe.
we're getting into nanites for weapons. This is exciting.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
That's what I was starting with
But
shotguns a little while ago.
yeah, exactly. But like, to me, like that could be an answer. But obviously, when you've got nanites being monetized, it's hard to balance around that. So the big one for me is 100% timers. There needs to be a timer on a max suit, I think.
Sure.
Um, to me, I think I posited a 15-minute timer, which means your absolute worst, and that's to clarify, timer on death, not timer from pull.
Mhm.
Um, so if you've had a good run and you've lasted 15 minutes, doesn't mean you get to pull another one. You're done for that time, and it means that in
Oh,
an
so it has, like,
absolute
an
worst case
enforced
scenario,
cooldown that begins when you die.
correct. It's like an
That's
ultimate
harsh,
ability
brother.
per se in a game.
That's harsh,
Um,
brother. Don't you think?
oh yeah, oh I know it is harsh, but
Ooh,
I do
that's
kind of
some
stand
tough
by it.
medicine. That's some tough medicine. Thinking about
I
that.
think if you're rewarded, if you have a good max run, that should be it for a while. You've done your part. You've had your fun.
But what if you're trying to get good with the max? What if you're generally not a good player and you're really trying to learn your way around? You have to swap between 2 different play styles, like, half the time. Like, isn't that jarring? Isn't that a bad experience for someone who's sorta new and maybe doesn't even understand why this has a
Yeah,
timer and everything else doesn't?
could be. But I still stand by the idea that you know not everyone is going to be good out of the gates, and
Mhm.
if you take the time to learn and you take the time, so say you die in a max suit and you're like, okay, clearly this thing has an NI cost. Clearly, it's different to everything else that's in the game right now. Um, it's going to take some time to learn. It's going to take some time to get a handle of its game design and of its balance and stuff like that. If people understand what the reward of a max suit could be, which there's plenty of gameplay footage on YouTube cataloging that,
Yeah.
then I think people will want to learn to eventually, build up that confidence and sort of like it's all about skill progression, I think. And if you reward skill progression as opposed to just giving people the win straight away, I think that's a more rewarding experience personally.
Mm. Yeah.
I mean, it is to a certain demographic of people who have the time to do so. I understand that too. Um,
Yeah, and that brings me to, like, here's a truth that when I learned it, made me want to
mm,
reframe the way I see basically anytime people like us sit down to talk about games like Planetside. And it's the 80-15 the 80-15-5 rule, or is it 80-25? 80-25 rule. Have you heard of this?
80, 80-25. I think I have. Yeah, go on.
It's basically the idea that if you make a video game, 80% of the people who play it will never ever engage with media or discussion about of the game outside the game. Ever.
Yep.
80%. That leaves
Yep.
20%. The 20% are the engagers. They're the people who watch the YouTube videos, who talk on the forums. And of that slice, it's the only a slice about the size of 5% who actually bother
Mm.
to write the comment, to make the video, who actually contribute to the
Yep.
conversation, who as opposed to just passively receiving it. And that
Yep.
so much of what we do, you do, is you're the 5% talking to the 20%. But there's
Yep.
this 80% juggernaut out there that's playing the
Mm.
game the way they want to, and they don't even hear this conversation. They don't even
No.
contribute to it. They contribute to the conversation by being in the game and making the decisions that they make. And
Yep.
we don't get to talk to them except with at the other end
No.
of a gun. And
Yeah.
even so, sometimes when I see a game like Planetside and I see a problem like this, where the
Yeah.
community seems to be pretty close to a consensus that
Mhm.
anti-infantry maxes are a problem that need to be rate limited in some way.
Yeah.
Um, and it doesn't happen. Why? Why doesn't it happen? And the only logical there are two answers. One is lazy developer, which I think is almost never a
No.
useful way of seeing a problem. I'm sure it's true sometimes.
Agreed.
This time I don't think it
Yeah.
is. The other one is
I
there's
agree with you.
something that the community doesn't know about the way the 80% play the game, and that is
Mhm.
not getting included in the discussion.
Yeah.
There's some important quality that gets compromised by putting a rate limiter on. And um, I think with Planetside, it's pretty easy to explain. If I try to put myself into the mindset of the non-engagers, the passive gamers, the
Mm.
weekend warriors who aren't listening to
Mhm.
podcasts or going to Reddit.
Yep.
And it's that when they sit down, they know what they know what they want to play, and they want to play it. And
Mhm.
it's a big risk to take someone who's already going to be perhaps not very good at the game, perhaps not highly invested, not availing
Yeah.
themselves of resources about how to, manage their mouse input, how to maximize their frame rate, how to, turn off shadows, do all the stuff that a lot of people do playing Planetside to get the best out of it. And they're already at a
Yep.
massive disadvantage because of that, because they're not taking advantage of the community hive mind.
Yep.
And this is a fully PvP game. If they're not playing with the gods on the field, they're not playing with anyone. Like there's no other
No.
game available. Um, there's no newbie
Yep.
server.
No.
So
No,
what do
there is
these
not.
people do? Well, they have their force multipliers, and they can hop into a max suit 24/7.
Yep.
And this is the apologistic argument that I can create in my head to explain the reality that I see. I don't know if it's
Yep.
true.
Yep.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, like I definitely I can understand that side of things. And I a few years ago fell on that sort of, side of the argument too. I was very much apologetic to the Maxim main
Mhm.
who wanted to casually jump in, get some kills after a long hard day at work, and then, has to go look after the kids for a few hours because,
Sure.
whatever.
They're
And I
they're
get
10
that.
kids
There
with their
needs to be
5
a
jobs. Right.
correct. And there needs to be a space for, like, I agree that there needs to be a space for the casual gamer to enjoy the game. Most other games out there allow for that. You've got casual lobbies, you've got casual servers, stuff like
Mhm.
that. Where Planetside is very unique in the sense that your competitive minded people very much mesh with the casual minded people.
Mhm.
That is a problem I don't think you're ever going to fix with Planetside. And it's why I think we develop such stark contrasts in the community as a result of that. Um,
And isn't it interesting that we can have a casual engaged community and a hardcore engaged community? Because everyone you
all
talk
in the
to
same.
on the forums about and who are going to defend the max suit use, who are going to defend, hash spam or whatever it is, they're actually on the more engaged side of the spectrum. They're one of
Yeah,
the
which is
the lean
interesting.
in types, not the lean back
Yeah.
types, which I think is the way we usually look at it.
I saw it. I saw it all through my Maxu video. When I
Uh-huh.
when I made that video, it was unbelievable the mix of discussion I saw
Oh,
and the
really?
mix of unbelievable. It is my most disliked video to this day.
Holy shit,
Um,
man. Wow.
but it's also it's not like it's 80% upliked, but it's also one of my most disliked video to this day.
20% is a lot
Yeah. So
for a
to give
video like that.
context, it has around 100, it has 527 upvotes and 100 and something dislikes.
Ooh.
Like it's brutal. That doesn't affect its algorithm. In fact, it helps the algorithm because
Yeah.
YouTube sees it as a controversial and
A thumbs
engaging
down is
video.
still an
But
engagement.
Exactly. In the eyes of YouTube, it's good.
All
But
good.
yeah, I see it. I see the different sides of the community, and I very much so pissed off that side of the community with that video wholeheartedly. I saw it, and it's especially tough in a game like this that doesn't have a lot of population left to go around. Let's be real, it
Yep.
doesn't.
Yep.
When you take that play style and you do change it so fundamentally, um, then obviously, you have a portion of the audience that who aren't going to be interested in adapting and enjoying that new play style because,
Mhm.
well, it's gone now. You can't sit in a max suit all day and main it 24/7. The thing I the question I always posit with that sort of thing though is what percentage of your player base there is engaging in that style of gameplay?
Mhm.
And I think there's API stats out there that can help us come to that decision.
Mm.
Um, and then what is the negative effect on the game flow and the gameplay, or just the effect in general, not even negative? What effect does it have on the game? Is it for the better? Is it for the worse? And if you were to change it, what would the flow on effect be, naturally
Mhm.
speaking?
Is the
Would your
pain
players
worth it?
adapt? Exactly. Would your players adapt?
Because
Would
it
they
would
would
be
they
hurtful to people.
it would hurt. It would definitely, like, obviously if you put into effect these changes, you would certainly have some players who would enjoy the game less. Um, but you would also have other players who would enjoy the game more.
Here's a
Um,
clarifying question.
Go
Put
on.
yourself in the shoes of the 20% of people who saw your video and did this.
Mhm.
What is it they want from a Mac suit, in your opinion?
I think it's honestly, um, a lot of I did see a lot of people use the argument of it's a new player crutch for one, like it's a crutch for a new player to get into and enjoy
Right.
and to make the most of it.
Mhm.
A lot of people see it as a tool to use to break stalemates, which yeah, you be to a lot of fights. You can sort of, yeah, I think you
Sort
and
of
I both know.
arguably, yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong, but
Depends on the base. Yeah, it's I see a lot of arguments mainly for the casual side of the community and for their tactical weight,
Mhm.
which to me, I think the weight would be even ever more present if there was more if there was more risk to them.
Mhm.
Like, I feel as though when you saw one of these things, and to me, another answer would be complete. Like the solutions I posited in that video were very much designed to be fixes until we can look at the functionality of a Mac suit in the future more so. Like,
A
personally, I'd like to
Band-Aid.
see them maybe become, yeah, like,
Mhm.
for me, a tank, like a more of a tanky role, like, designed to absorb a lot of damage, take a lot of the fire, and act
Yeah.
as a bulwark
I've
to
heard this
push up
suggestion a
behind, stuff
lot.
like that.
I'm sympathetic
Yeah,
with
like
that. The
that.
idea that if they're not there to deal damage. They're
Yeah,
there to
exactly. They're
soak
there
it. They're a
to,
tank, like,
yeah,
in the
let the
RPG
heavy
sense of the term
assaults.
tank.
Yeah, let the heavy assaults and your light assaults and even, like, your more experienced other classes deal the damage, and then let the max suit be the bulwark they move up
Yeah.
behind and stuff
A
like that.
defensive
I'm
tool, a soaking tool.
Yeah, I'm also really sympathetic to that potential route as well,
And that
as a
way,
means
they
to
are
balance them.
reliant on other people to do the damage, and
Correct,
they're
correct,
more complementary in the same way that, like, an engineer is reliant on having a vehicle or something to repair nearby in order to get the most value out of it, or a medic is reliant on having
correct.
teammates to get the most value out of it.
Yep, correct. Like, and there are ways to play these classes that are, in some way, shape, or form, like a light assault, as I'm sure you would know, is reliant on having a base to turn into a playground.
Yeah.
Um, a heavy assault is reliant on having. Oh, excuse me. I'm good. heavier soldiers reliant on having, especially in the higher end skill echelon part of the
Yeah.
community, having multiple targets to chain kill to keep the adrenaline shield and assimilate going to roll over that sort of stuff. Like there's a lot of
Mhm.
reliances there to make the most of your class. I think the max suit, if it was to become more of a tanky role and supportive in that sense, that could be an answer. Eliminate the damage. It means that the players who, come across a max suit aren't going to be instantly one tapped by it, because new
Mhm.
players on the returning end of that also aren't going to know what a max suit is. They're going to get murdered by this death machine that has double
Mhm.
the HP they do, two weapons, and one frames them like that. That's also potentially not healthy to the new player experience either, by a certain
Mhm.
argument. So yeah, it's really sort of, it's a strange balance to find, and I hear the arguments on both sides all the time. Um, the very design of the max suit creates unique problems that
Yeah.
have been seeded in the game for 8 years now.
Yeah. Yeah, it all goes back to Higby. The problems of the
Damn it,
mech
Higby.
suit and the mech suit, which is the thing that breaks all the rules, and the problems of the third faction, which creates,
Mhm.
oh, so much drama.
So much drama.
Kami, I
We
need a
love
quick
to see
break.
it, don't we?
Can take 5?
Go on. Take 5.
All right. We'll be right back, folks.
All good.
And we're back. It's me, Deeg, here with Camikaze78. Wow.
Wow.
We just talked all about mech suits. Here's
Fun times.
a crazy metaphor I want to bounce off of you, Kami, and everyone listening, especially the live folks.
Mm.
We were talking all about maxes and how it's like the thing that breaks all the rules. It's kind of like the knight of the chessboard, right? It's a piece
Yep.
that doesn't do what other pieces do. It's very strange. It breaks the
Mm.
rules. And
Yeah.
it's kind of a wild card in that sense. Maybe a problem, maybe a solution. Hard to say sometimes.
Yep.
Um, and one way to fix the way the game plays is to change the pieces, but another way is to change the board. And recently,
Yep.
we saw the introduction of Planetside's very first open, like big scale Planetside continent in since Hassan,
Yeah.
which was in what, 2015, something like that?
Yeah. When was
16?
Hassan?
I
20,
think it was 14 or
2014?
15. Anyway, a long ass
Yeah,
time.
good
A
lord.
long ass time. And Oshur
Long, long ass time.
is polarizing, as was the title of your Oshur video.
Yes,
And
sir. Yes,
I'm gonna ask
sir.
you what you think about Oshur, but I want you to think. I want to do so with this context in mind,
Yep.
because I have a sense. I'm developing a sense that I'm still having a hard time verbalizing, that there's
Mm.
something about the way that Oshur changes Planetside that starts
Yep.
to address these arms combining problems in a
Mhm.
systematic way that gives answers to people who want big Planetside, perhaps a
Yep.
little more than the people who want little Planetside.
Yep.
But what do you think about Oshur, Kami? Give it to us straight.
I sorry?
Give it to us straight.
Yeah, I agree with you that the baseline design of OSHA does seem to fit Big Planet Side more, which I think, minus some glaring problems that I think we see with certain aspects of the game, some certain aspects of battle flow, some of the base design, it does a pretty good job at doing. Like on OSHA, I've noticed a lot of back and forth fighting over fields with armor, air, sometimes construction
Yeah,
to its own health or detriment to the game having an impact as well.
yeah.
Um,
And that open field stuff feels way different somehow compared to the other
I
continents.
agree. And I've actually been really enjoying that side of the game again. Like I quite like the open field fighting. I like fighting in different environments over and over again. I like having different, natural cover and different rock formations and stuff like that to play around in.
Yeah.
Um,
Shout
and
out to
yeah,
Palma
to me,
Gardens.
OSHA,
That's a fun one.
Pommel guns is fantastic. I love
Yeah,
that base.
yeah.
Yeah, I can agree on that one. But yeah, to me, like Planetside 2's big Planetside, or Planetside as the series, the big Planetside promise, I think is satisfied quite well with Oshur.
Mhm.
Um, that sense of scale, that sense of armor pushing back and forth, fighting, each other. Like I've seen a lot more armor on armor fighting. Um,
I think I saw
I've
a
seen
highly
a lot
upvoted
less.
video on the Reddit of someone
Yeah,
just showing a warp-gated faction with their infantry literally crawling on the ocean floor up to the
yeah,
beach, and they were like, "This is epic." And I think for
yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
veteran plugged-in PlanetSide players, they see that and they just feel dread
yeah,
because
yeah.
damn, is it slow.
Yeah, yeah, the water mechanics are a little bit of fun as well. But yeah, no, I think OSHA gets that right at the very least. I think it's got like I like that it's doing something different. I didn't want to see another Hossen. I didn't want to
Mhm,
see another Amrish. I didn't want to see another Indar. I didn't want to see
mhm,
another Estimir. I wanted something new because to me, each continent does sort of appease to different people. It tries different things, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I know a lot of people will say that one continent is objectively better than the other. I don't necessarily think every continent needs to be. I don't think every continent needs to be everybody's favorite.
mhm,
I do think every continent needs to have room for every playstyle to engage in some meaningful way.
mhm.
Doesn't mean it needs to be your favorite. Like favorites, you can't win every favorite. Essentially, Hossen, I know in particular, very much gives the infantry players a lot more domains to engage in
Yeah,
and do so with a lot of enjoyment.
yeah.
Vehicle players can have some fun there, but it's much more
It's a lot
limited.
more locked down for
Essentially,
vehicle players in terms of where you can go, what you can do, angles you can get.
Correct, exactly. And like Indar's a bit more open, Esamir arguably a bit more open in some places, and you've got containment sites and stuff like that, which some love or hate depending on who you
Yeah,
ask.
yeah,
Um, Amarish as well, like I think even plays a bit more into the air game with the mountainous region and being able to like break sightlines and stuff like that. So OSHA very much does appease to your big planet side gangs a lot more, and the new spawn system I think very much encourages a lot of zerging down lanes and stuff like that, which is a different kettle of fish
can you
essentially.
help
But
me understand exactly what's different about the spawn system other than the fact that timers are generally longer?
timers are generally longer, which I'm not a huge fan of myself, but I think as
Uh-huh.
well there's changes to the logic in which how far you can redeploy, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Um Across the continent. At least I think that I need to do I've been away a week, so I'm slowly getting myself back into the sort of the niche of it and understanding what's going on here. I
Yeah.
know it got changed again recently a little
Yeah,
bit, I
what
think
I
with the
heard about it
timers.
is that it was rolled back to a version of the spawn system that existed at back in, like, I think 2019, something like that. Um,
Maybe.
and that what the way I've heard Rel describe what the system was like before this change was the spawn priority system. And this is
Mhm.
not that. This is something that preceded the spawn priority system.
Yeah,
But
yeah, which is very jarring considering we've been playing this one for the last 2 years, but obviously, making changes and seeing what
okay.
works. Um, anyway, yeah, I've yet to build more of a my initial
You don't
thoughts
have a strong
on the
opinion
spawn
about it yet,
system.
it sounds like, but you don't like the
I
spawns
I I
that
have
you
a strong
saw.
I had a strong opinion on I had a strong opinion on the timers when they first launched in the way they did. I hated them. Um,
Mhm.
but
I think
and
I'm the
I
only
know
person in the Kamasa community that likes the longer timers.
you and I know where you sit on it, which is very interesting to me.
I think I'm the only person that thinks this. At least the only person who's willing to say it out loud.
Yeah.
I am such a
No,
fucking boomer when it comes to Planetside, man. I just remember
yeah,
Planetside 1. And I remember, like, if you wanted to go anywhere, man, you were
yeah,
basically getting in a vehicle. Like, fuck you, get in a
yeah,
vehicle. Like, there's no, or,
yeah.
there was this mechanic called heart drops, which is kind of like a multi-step pain in the ass, like 4 times an hour, instant action. Um,
Mm.
but mobility was so much less, and I have the hardest time. I've had this feeling, and I feel terrible about this, but When I hear people complaining that they're not able to double click on the base they wanna go to on the map and just arrive there, I'm like I'm like, "Damn, you're so privileged. You and your spawn access. Back in my day, why
Back
back
in
in
my
my
day, there it
day, I'll
is.
have you
Yeah.
know, I had to go, I had to put on my infantry boots and go 5 miles through the snow of Sarishan and cross those terrible fucking bridges.
Oh my
I
god.
don't know. And
Yeah.
and I can back this up a little bit, a tiny bit, because
Yeah. All I can say is
for
I wouldn't have
me,
survived in that day and age. I would not have survived one bit.
bro, the game was so wildly different and on so many
Mm.
fundamental levels. Like, it
Yeah.
was pre-social media. It was a subscription game. No one
Jeez.
had
Yeah.
computers. Not a lot of people had internet at the time. Everything about it was so wildly different.
Mm.
You can't really compare apples to apples when it comes to Planetside 1 and 2.
Sure.
But for me, I enjoy the slower pace, and part of that is because whenever I play it, for the most part, I'm streaming, so I'm usually
Mm.
engaging with people. So if I have to wait to spawn, it's not that painful. It's an opportunity to like take a breath, grab a drink, read chat,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So that's a
Yeah.
selfish thing. But
Of
also,
course.
I just my ADHD brain sometimes when my access to action, my access to gratification is so fast, I spiral into these negative hate spirals so quickly. Like, I'll
Uh-huh.
die badly a
Uh-huh.
couple times, and I'll just be like, "Oh, I'm just gonna get that asshole." I'll just, like, fucking I won't try to be like, "Well, hey, wait a second. What should I do differently?" I'll just, like, clench my mouse harder. Like, that's
Yeah.
actually gonna, make it go better this time.
Yeah,
Or
of
or
course.
I'll
Yeah.
or I'll I'll create a narrative in my head about the person who killed me is the worst person ever, you know? And
We all
probably
know the tighter you grip your mouse, the better you are. So yeah.
absolutely. I think that's
Yeah.
that's writ. Um,
Hmm.
so I like when I have found that when the game pushes me to slow down, as it has with Oshur, because I don't have as much access to go where I wanna go, and because the spawn times are longer, I find myself being forced to be like, "Oh, well, I actually have 5 to 10 seconds to make a different decision."
Yep.
And maybe there's something about that that's not just good for me, but good for everyone. But then again,
Yeah.
maybe I'm just being selfish there. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's understandable. The one of the biggest pain points I think I have with OSHA and the spawn system, I think in general at the moment, has very much been like there's been a few occasions where I've seen fights sort of taking place sort of nearby me, give or take, but I can't get there. And
Mhm.
they're 48 to 96 aside, or even like 24 to 48 aside, dead 50-50. Like, I
Mhm.
can't get there. I want to enjoy that fight. I want to go hang out there. That
Yeah.
looks like fun. And like even like the one of the bases I've wanted to fight at over and over again, but have never had the opportunity to truly enjoy is Century Mining Operation on
Hell
OSHA.
yeah.
That base looks amazing. And I have fought there a little bit, and
Mhm.
I have like, some thoughts on how it could be improved a bit, but it's just that's one base I wanted to go to so much more often. I couldn't get there. The
Uh-huh.
spawn system wouldn't let me. And
Oh,
what I'm
poor
seeing,
Tommy.
um, sad boy vibes over here. Uh, but no,
So what did
like
you do?
one of the issues I take with it as a result of that is that you see a lot of these Zergs pushing down lanes unattested for quite some time.
Mhm.
I see it.
Mm.
I see it a lot.
This is the
Um,
main critique I've heard about the Spawn stuff. So,
yeah,
did
yeah.
it go ahead.
And another critique I sort of have about the continent in general as well has been very much like, okay, it sort of tries to cultivate big planet side. It tries to
Okay.
cultivate these bigger planet side engagements, which it does in the open field environments.
Mm.
But as soon as one of these Zergs crashes into a base or crashes into, let's say, an interlink facility
Right.
or a Trident relay,
Mhm.
the scale of the bases doesn't always accommodate that too well, in my opinion.
Mm. Bases
Like
feel very full very fast.
they do, and it's the same assets that we've had for years. Um, like same buildings for the most part. There's been some new stuff added, fantastic, but there's
Yeah.
quite a lot of
Powerhouses, triple stacks, L buildings.
exactly. Um,
A lot of those.
you see these big zergs crash into these bases, and quite often not, they've got a lot of force multipliers attached to them, vehicles, aircraft, stuff like that, because
Mhm.
those force multipliers have been pulled for the use of countering other force multipliers, which is excellent. That's Planetside at its best, in my opinion, when you have these force multipliers crashing into each other. You've got this big open field fight. The
Mhm.
combined arms nature of the game is starting to make a bit more sense.
Yeah.
But when it crashes into these facilities that don't accommodate that too well, I find that we run into the problem of the bases. Again, they fill very fast and they get congested very fast. The flow of combat sort of grinds to a halt. Um,
Are there any particular egregious ones you can think of?
to me, it's actually the interlinks and the tridents.
Mm. Mhm.
Like, both of those bases, to me, I think are really enjoyable at 1 to 12, even 12 to 24 size fights,
Mhm.
because there's enough room for the players to move, there's enough room for firing lines to be established, there's enough room
Mhm.
for for combat to flow. But as soon as one of these big forces that the continent sort of culminates and pulls together, it sort of stops flowing in a way,
Mhm. It gets
I
clogged.
find.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it unfortunately gets clogged a lot at spawn rooms, um,
I've seen that a lot with the
which
tridents in particular.
y
The speed with
unbelievably so.
which with I have and all the time I spent in tridents, which I try to go to when I can because 'cause they're interesting,
Yeah,
and there's a
yeah,
bunch of them, and, like, I wanna learn them. Um, I feel like I've spent maybe 5 to 10% of my time fighting over points, and the rest of
yeah,
that, um, fighting over, access from the roof, so coming inside, and the vast majority of it sitting either just inside of or just outside of spawn shields.
mm,
And I think that there's something about Planetside when it comes down to being on either side of a spawn shield
yeah.
that I don't think anyone really likes that.
No, and I think it's also detrimental to the new player experience. No one like, if the veterans aren't gonna like it, they're just gonna redeploy out. A new player's
Yeah.
not gonna know to do that.
So what do you do
So,
about that? Because I look at like the containment sites, and they seem like an answer to the problem of how do you have an indoor space that doesn't end up with spawn camping? Because it you
yeah,
because the distance, the leg distance from the top of that base to the deepest point, to the spawns is horrendous. And the amount of time that those fights end up with the spawns getting camped is not super high as a result. And maybe that's good,
mm,
but was that way of addressing that good?
yeah, yeah, it's like, again, we're sort of going back down to the pain versus the reward aspect.
Mhm.
Like, how often do you see containment sites get captured in a 50-50 fight, which
Mhm.
is arguably the healthiest style of fight?
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, by virtue, the base design there kind of encourages you to overpop and kind of lead to spawn camping to ensure that victory.
This game is so
Um,
complicated, bro.
it really is, dude. And like, what we have here is the base design of these facilities,
The Tridents.
inciting potentially, yeah, tridents and even
Mhm.
interlinks. You know, they it's just all about, like, they invite good combat and good fun. The base design at its core is symmetrical. It feels fun to fight in
Mhm.
until you throw in that excess amount of pop that the continent encourages via its big planet side approach. So you've got
Mhm.
like this sort of really awkward to fix, back and forth, that leaves, I think, your infantry players in particular with a lot to be desired about the continent.
Mhm.
They they
Mhm.
they wish they wish for more.
Yes,
Um,
yes. I think if your goal when you sit down play PlanetSide is to sit in a heavy assault or medic or infiltrator, light assault, whatever it is, I
yeah,
think it's very hard to stay in that mode the whole time
I agree.
because you'll find yourself having to spawn at an Elysium spawn tube in some random open field construction site hex. And
Yep.
maybe you can tolerate slowly creeping along as a heavy assault or find an angle to, be that infiltrator in the rocks that I fucking hate. Um, but maybe you just get rolled over. Maybe the thing you have to really do is jump in some guy's mag rider, or maybe you need to try to
Yeah.
try to Hail Mary a Sunderer a little further up the field for your faction, or come in and
Yeah.
support with some air to ground, or try to help refill the silo in an ant. Like I have found that that call to jump out of my infantry boots and get into those experiences has really opened up the game for me, and it's been like,
Yeah, and
"Oh my god, like, this is Planetside," like, in
yeah,
the lame way we all invoke what is Planetside. For me, um, I think that, not having my not having my play style of choice be catered to so much
yeah,
and that I can always sit in it.
yeah,
And I don't blame a lot of people who are used to maining infantry being uncomfortable
mhm,
here because
yeah,
you can't really main infantry on Oshur. Not really.
yeah. I 100% agree because yeah, I'm the same. Like I'm an infantry guy, always have been. I like dabbling in other stuff, but I don't a lot of the time because I'm just doing other things, and it just feels more natural for me to be on the ground as an infantry player. But I can see why the idea of jumping into a tank or jumping in as a gunner or whatever is probably going to be a little bit more encouraged on OSHA. I also understand that the infantry players who enjoy um, who don't enjoy that style of gameplay are going to feel lost here too. So, like it's such a as soon, like I said this in my OSHA video. When you
Uh-huh.
cater to a certain portion of the pie, you immediately take from another. Um, like there's
Yeah. Yeah.
there's only when you have an 8 by 8 kilometer map to work with, and you need to design bases and experiences on it because that's what you're essentially doing when you design a map like this. You're designing an experience
Mhm.
that it's going to cultivate. Um, it was very clear that the continent took a slice of that infantry gameplay centric pie and shifted it towards big planet side quite a bit, um,
Mhm.
which is something we haven't seen a whole lot. I think.
I feel the need to be devil's advocate again here
Go on.
because aren't there already great continents for infantry players?
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that 100%.
Like
I
Hassan
as I
is one that
said,
everyone throws up. You mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, Hassan, I agree, and I remember making that point as well. That there needs to be that when you have an ecosystem of experiences in the game and maps don't cater to that previously, you probably need to create a map that does cater to the experiences that are left to be desired currently.
Mhm.
It's just going to create a thorn in the backside to the other players who are so interested in that other style of gameplay. 100%, I agree with you. Yeah.
Can I ask you, who do you think Amarish is for? What does that continent do well in your mind? Try to create some
Amish is
comparisons for Oshur. You see what I'm doing?
yeah. Amherst is weird. Amherst is very weird to me.
Can I describe an experience I had like a couple nights in a row on Amarish and see if it matches up with what you think?
I think I know exactly where you're going with this, but go on.
Well, maybe you too. So Amrish is like the most visually exciting continent to me because the crazy changes in elevation, the mountains.
Yep.
It's very exciting looking if you're just looking at it from like a whoa, this is cool terrain. This would be fun to play around with. That terrain creates a lot of weird bottlenecks and a lot of real channels that force people down into certain lines that everyone except for air are a victim to. So
Hmm.
the experience that I've had for a couple nights in a row on Amrish was going in as a solo player. And I'm trying to take the Oshur mindset with me. I'm not sticking to one play style and white knuckling it
Hmm.
to make it work. I'm trying to be like, oh, what does this call for? What does this call for? And
Mm.
every single fight on Amarish, just except for maybe the Ascent, falls over in like 3 minutes. And there's
Yep.
no actual fight that I can take a bite out of. I get maybe one spawn in, and then
Yep.
some guy at an angle I didn't anticipate gets me, and then I run back, and then the fight's over. And
Yep.
there seems to be this dynamic where the power of outfits and coordination on Amarish is overstated compared to some of the other continents. This is anecdotal experience. I could be wrong about this, and it feels like it's a
No.
continent for the outfit players and not much for the solo planet side players a lot of the time.
I do see a lot of examples of landsliding on Osha, sorry, on Amarish.
Yeah.
But there are also some bases I see flow really stagnated as well, like Kawadi Mountain Complex for one gets really
Mm.
bad a lot of the time.
Mhm.
Um, you've got things like there's another one just to its south. I forget the name. I was fighting there today. It'll come to me eventually.
Mhm.
Um, even the Ascent struggles under 96 plus fights. I think we've all been there. Late night Ascent gameplay, top tier stuff.
Oh,
Um,
man, I hate three-sided
yep,
The Ascent. It seems like it should
I
be
hate it
so
too.
fun, but it ain't.
It's really not. It's not a good time at all. Um, we've got like trying to think about the bases now off the top of my head, but I forget. But yeah, you're right. Like, there's a lot of angles on Hassan. Oh my god, I'm having a field day today.
Omrish.
Amarish,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, a lot of angles to enjoy on there, and it does cater as a result a lot to your outfits and stuff like that, and your players who prefer to play in that more of a tactical mindset once again. But
I don't like to use that word. It's used too much. It's abused.
I agree. I agree. The more outfit orientated play that's larger scale, you do see a
Yeah,
lot of
people who are
that
trying to
having a
color in the map with their friends, and they're doing it in,
correct.
like, but they're not, like, rolling around in tank columns. They're like, "No, like, let's put the spawn beacon here. Okay, everyone redeploy now. Okay, we're gonna load up in a Valkyrie,
Mhm.
we're gonna load up in a Rest, we're gonna get a
Yeah,
Sunderer in position," and the map just colors in so fast. And it's like
yeah, yeah,
as a redeploying, instant actioning player trying to, like, find a I'm okay, I'm gonna play heavy assault here. Oh, I'm gonna play medic here. Um,
yeah.
it feels
Amarish
like
definitely, I think, caters.
I'm ping-ponged around the whole time. It's not for me.
Yeah, and like even your bases like Crux headquarters. There's also the
Mhm.
big one off to the east. Oh my god, I forget the name of it. It's got like it's the base with like the big bridge that goes across underground section, 4 capture points. Again, a base that requires a lot of
Yeah, I know what you're talking
uh
about. I'm terrible with the
yeah,
base names, though.
yeah, me too at the moment. Coordination, stuff like that all like that sense of coordination, that sense of, a need to work together is very prevalent on Omrush, I feel.
Yeah,
Um,
and
whereas on
how could
base,
the need for team play be seen as a bad thing?
no, and I agree. Like, at the end of the day, team play and a need to work together, I think, is a great time. Like,
Uh-huh.
when you have when you have two sides actively working with each other. Sorry, when you have two sides of people in their own courts actively working with each other to fight one
Okay.
another on
This
a
is a
given
whole
playing
other
field.
other discussion we can get into.
Exactly.
No, no, no.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm I'm more thinking about, like,
I'm treading dangerous ground here.
someone looking at me and then hearing about my Amish experience saying, "Deeg, you're a fucking
Yeah.
idiot. You should have been playing with a platoon." You
Mm,
know? Like,
yeah.
that's a valid retort. Like, why am I not playing with a platoon?
Yeah, yeah, and I get that a lot too.
What do you think
Yeah,
about
I
that?
get like, the argument of you should have been playing with people, it's like, I get that, like, the argument of I hear the argument of the game is fun with friends. Well, every game is fun with friends,
It's
come
the
on.
friends that are fun. The game is incidental.
Exactly, exactly, and, like, at the end of the day, like, I myself, I don't play with squads or platoons a lot nowadays, I don't have time. Um
Are you usually streaming when you play?
Yeah, normally, or I'm either normally streaming when I play or I'm recording. And when I'm
Yeah.
recording, I'm in my own mindset. I am
Yeah, you're
very
trying to get something
much
done. Yeah.
exactly. Um, so yeah, like I like, playing with friends, like enjoying time with, like the argument of you should be playing with a platoon, like, okay, is it really such a bad thing though to want to enjoy the game as a solo player as well?
Exactly. And doesn't
Yeah,
the game make that promise that you can play as a solo player?
exactly.
It does.
I think every game makes that promise. Every game should make that promise. Well, I
Yeah.
guess, there's exceptions to the rule and they do it on their own merit.
Mhm.
But the way I look at it, at the end of the day, this is a first person shooter game, and most first person shooter games you can jump into and enjoy by virtue of being able to get in there and shoot some people and have a good
Yeah.
day.
Yep. Move your character, shoot your gun. Have fun.
Exactly.
Why should I
Exactly.
have to link up with people? Yeah. Okay, so
Exactly.
that's Omrish. We talked about I want to link this back to Oshur, but maybe we can really quick like get a 1 minute take on what the other
Mm,
continents do well. So we already did Hossin. Hossin has a lot of good infantry bases
infantry.
that
Yep.
are pretty well balanced for fights that can take a few minutes to resolve, have some back and forth, and
Yep.
that are hard to shit up with vehicles and doing
Yep.
AI stuff. And then that leaves
Yep.
Indar.
Yeah. Indar is a very mixed bag. I think Indar is sort of a bit more compartmentalized, actually. Like you
Oh,
sort of got
how so?
you've got sort of like you've got the northern area of the map, which is very open, sort of a bit more vehicle heavy.
Yeah,
Vehicles have
yeah,
more freedom of the movement across the map, that sort of thing. You've got your um, you got your canyons in the southeast, which are a bit more. They give I guess infantry a bit more cover, and there's a bit more like there's less flexibility to get angles of armor into bases and stuff like that. And then obviously you've got your southwest corner of the map, which I think is sort of a combination of the two. It's like hilly, but
yeah,
it's hilly, but it's still covered for infantry in some aspects, depending on the base you're looking at. Like it's really tough. I actually need to quickly go to the bathroom. Bear
yeah,
with me. I'll
yeah.
be
We'll
right
take
back if that's
another few
okay.
minutes. No worries.
Yep.
Be right back, folks.
Won't be long.
Hey, I was just catching up with chat.
Back. Ah, very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Sure, they're all getting involved as they
L-
like to do.
Lex with another zinger says, Siege is talking about Indar induces bowel movements.
Lex, playing this game induces bowel movements, man. You know it.
Just think of it as a diuretic. It's good for you. Maybe. Sort of. No, I think but diuretics reduce blood pressure. This definitely raises my blood pressure when I play Planetside.
Oh yeah,
So,
100%. Bruh, yeah. There's been a few of that lately. Anyway.
so
Anyway.
Indar
Yeah,
is a bit of a
fun times.
mixed bag. But
It
in
is. Yeah.
aggregate, which of the arms combined tend what play style is sort of favored there? Is there any that kind of that is ascendant?
I don't know if I can really say there's one that ascends like infantry,
Well, I know infantry players hate playing on Indar. Why is that?
Yeah, obviously because there's I guess in a lot of the map, for the most part, like in the most fought areas of the map, I guess there's a lot of room for vehicles and especially air. I think to
Hmm.
do a lot of damage. Like base design on Ninda,
It's the oldest base design in
and
the game, right?
yeah,
I think it is.
yeah, I think so too. And there's a lot of bases on that continent that definitely throws in a lot
So
of
there,
flexibility for air to have a lot of time. I think.
I feel like Indar is like the force multiplier anti infantry continent.
Yeah,
I feel like
which is
that's the continent where that playstyle works the best.
it
Maybe
is, which is ironic
Estimir
because it's
as a
also one of
close
my favorite
second.
continents too.
Yeah.
And I don't even engage in that style of play often. Ugh, fun times.
I don't know. Okay, I wanted to to float those out there because I wanted to
Yep,
use it to talk about Oshur, what Oshur does well,
yep,
and so like a lot of your comments about snowballing and the way that Zergs tend to kind of get into these channels where they dig these grooves throughout the map. I mean, I've definitely seen multiple times on Oshur where like every single fight is somehow 70-30, and how the hell does that happen? And the answer seems to
yeah,
be, something about the way the lattice is designed and maybe something about the way the spawn system is designed. I think we're a lot more likely to see changes to the spawn system than we are changes to the lattice.
I agree.
I think we've even
I
heard
agree.
Rel say, "Hey, like we made this change, but it might change again." So, and
Yep.
I think we also
Yeah,
know
no.
that like the beacon change where beacons are instant. I think that's not gonna last very long. So it's like a infantry tryhards, enjoy it while you got it kind of situation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, have the fun while you can. Um, yeah, I think OSHA in particular, like what you see with all these 70-30 fights is a big part of that to me is the construction bases, which
Hmm.
I think are interesting. There are
Yeah.
I like yeah, like the prevalence of like let's remember the one thing here. OSHA is the first continent to have released that has had construction in the game to back off of.
Right.
Um,
Right. The first
so
post-construction
clearly it
continent.
was
Mhm.
sorry.
Yeah, I'm just clarifying, the post-construction continent, the only one.
Yeah, correct. So the way I sort of like I like I've always liked having things in the game with meaningful purpose, like like we were talking about Indar then, and like how it's sort of like the most, I guess, it's the most combined armsy side of the continent or continent in the game since the game launched. Really, like it's got the most amount of flexibility for armor, generally speaking, and for air, generally speaking, and infantry got some good bases, generally speaking, there too.
Okay.
Like,
Kinda like the melting pot of Planetside.
yeah, yeah, I'd say so.
Okay.
Um, but I guess what Oshur is trying to do a little differently is it's taking that melting pot and trying to give meaningfulness to some sides of the game. So we're talking the construction system. There's actually like the bases for construction can't be avoided. So fights have to take
Yeah.
place there. Players have to
They're
fortify them,
centrally
stuff like that.
placed. Mhm.
Correct. Armor needs to punch through these construction bases to capture them. So it gives armor something meaningful to do that's outside of heshing infantry on a hill somewhere.
Mhm.
Um, which I really like. I like that concept. I've always argued that I want to see armor in this game have meaningful objectives that goes
It
beyond.
needs more to do. Vehicle players and
Exactly.
air players need more to do so they're not left
I
farming
agree. I
infantry.
agree.
Is that a fair statement?
Yeah. Yes. I stand by that statement 100%, my friend.
Okay.
Um, so to see the continent try and do that to me is very interesting.
Yeah.
Where yeah, and I think it can like it conceptually can do that very, very well. Where I think it sort of falls a little short on that front is the lack of hard spawns means that it's very difficult for defenders to mobilize. Now that could very well be an issue with the spawn system. It could be an issue with, you know, um, the
Yeah.
lattice stuff like that.
Harder
As
to pin
we
that one
said,
down, but it
it is
has
very hard to.
been different and slower. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's harder to pin that down due to it being so new and so fresh and so unique to the continent. What I've noticed we've seen though is the player made bases on Osha fall apart really quickly if there's not an active force there ready to defend it out of the gate.
Mm.
And in the Planetside ecosystem and with how the meta has been for years now, you don't see a lot of players actively defending a base before the force arrives, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's too boring.
Yeah, no one wants to do it.
Everyone wants
So
to be where the conflict is. They don't wanna be camped out on the battlements, like, fuck that.
correct. Correct. Yeah, exactly. I'd rather be shooting something.
Yeah.
So what we see here is we see a lot of these player-made bases that do get meaningful objectives and they do get like meaningful things to do because they're contributing directly to the lattice, but they get steamrolled over because no one's there defending them in the
Mm.
first place. So yeah, it's OSHA for me feels very much like the content that aims to address those lacking meaningful objectives for those styles of play. There's just other, whether it comes down to other systems in the game or player mentality, it needs a little bit more work to get there, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, sure, sure, it needs more work.
Mm,
I think what excites me about Oshur, if I may be so bold, is not
go on.
necessarily what it's accomplished, but what it suggests.
Mm,
Um, because I have I made the comparison of big planet side and little planet side, which I think is actually a pretty useful way of thinking about it.
yeah,
Especially the way that the community tends to divide along these lines.
yeah,
And I have been a player who has really only played Little Planet Side for years.
yeah,
Planet Side 2, basically my
me
whole
too.
time playing it. It's the part of the game that is easiest to play solo. It's the
Yep,
part of the game that is has always been the most relevant because you've always needed an infantry player to capture a point, and the game is about territory. So
yep,
infantry is almost always relevant. And I think that makes infantry almost always relevant is the fact that on most of the other continents, not Oshur, the play space between the bases is irrelevant or very close to it. Um,
hmm,
the base and part of that is, continent design, lattice design, but I think the biggest part of that is just the how close bases are together.
yep,
Um, the fact that, and the spawn system is also implicated there, so that muddies all the waters. But
yeah, of
um,
course.
How often, do you need to push between bases and on any of the other continents, Hassan, Indar, Amrish? Maybe
Mhm.
during prime time with the biggest Zergs, you see that a little bit, but other
Yep.
than that, it's just not a part of Planetside. Mostly, you're leapfrogging between bases using the
Yeah.
redeploy system, or if you get into a real pinch, relying on a beacon from a teammate, or just pulling an ESF and dropping where you need to go.
Routers when they were still, I guess a more relevant part of the meta,
What a
100%.
totally non-controversial change the router change has been, I feel like. I haven't heard
Oh,
anyone complaining
seriously.
about it because we've all been so sick of it, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, routers, yeah, I'm very happy that they have been nerfed into an oblivion. Very happy with it, in
Well,
fact.
let's give 3 cheers for a seemingly unambiguous balance change. We'll give a little clap for that.
Yep, 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 yep. Well,
Bye-bye,
it was
routers.
very good. Yeah, bye-bye routers. No, you weren't fun while you lasted. You were there.
You had your time in the sun, and now that time has faded.
Exactly.
Um, but yeah, and, oh man, I lost my train of thought. I was talking about what makes Oshur exciting to me, what it's pointing towards.
Yeah, we're talking a lot about big planet side,
Big planet side, little
like you were
planet
talking about,
side.
not what it's accomplished, but what it means.
Yeah, um, because I think that one of the hardest things about Planetside is addressing the basic promise. You know, I was watching and I think it was I can't remember the context. It was
Mm,
Rail talking to someone in the community, some interview he did, and he
sure.
said that I think he laid a stat down, something like Planetside 2 at some point, and I'm not sure if this is
Yeah.
like during a new release or if this is like during the between times. It's like 1,000 people downloading it a day. Some
Yep. Yeah.
insane number of new people
I
trying
remember hearing that
Planetside
stat.
every day.
Yeah.
And the tragedy is that it doesn't keep people past a week or maybe 2 max.
Yeah.
And
It's
can you imagine what Planetside 2 would be like for everyone if we could just move the needle on that part of the funnel? If we could
Mhm.
just keep an additional 5% more of those 30,000 players per month
W
around for another 2 weeks, another month, what a huge
Briggs would
impact.
Briggs would still exist.
Yeah, and, I'm gonna be talking to Rel next week. That podcast is
Oh,
scheduled, it's gonna
exciting.
happen on Thursday next week. I'm gonna ask him this because
Exciting.
if I were him, this is the problem that would intoxicate me, is of how to
Mm.
solve that problem.
Yeah.
And I look at Oshur, and I ask myself, how does Oshur address this problem?
Sure.
It puts people in field fights that are a lot more likely to be meaningful and fun.
Mhm.
And it makes the domains relevant in a way that showing up in a tank at an infantry base never can be.
Yeah.
And I think that
Exactly.
there's a certain part of the basic planet side formula that Oshur gets more right than any other play space in the game right now.
I have to agree. I
And
have
that
to agree.
really animates me. That really excites me. That makes me
Yeah.
feel really excited about the future. Um,
Yeah.
Also, and when you combine that with just the sheer size of the updates we've been seeing, escalation, outfit wars, whether it worked or didn't, was huge, and they got it in.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
the integration patch, holy shit, fleshing out the whole robot
Yeah.
faction, and I see tons of
Yep.
robots around. Like, wow, that fucking worked.
Yeah,
Oshur,
it works.
um, and we'll feel out long term how much of any of this pans out, and maybe in a year I'll look at this and think, God, what a moron you were, Deeg.
I'm sure we will talk about it very soon again, don't you
Yeah, yeah,
worry.
we'll revisit it. But
Yep.
that's what gets me excited about it.
Yeah. No, I agree, and the best part about it for me, for all of its flaws, is that it is something fresh. It is
Yeah,
something new. It's something, and I'm an optimist by nature. I like fresh and new. Fresh and new to me is exciting. I like to experience it. I
Variety is
like
the
to.
spice of life, my friend. We all need novelty.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And Osha has been pushing my simple brain infantry main player self to try out new things. Um, and I do enjoy that side of what Osha does and how it invites new play styles to be more relevant.
Mhm.
Um, it's now just a matter
It
of
addresses
making,
the
in my
meaning problem more centrally.
correct, correct. To me now, it's just a matter of addressing the meaning problem on the other continents to make the meaning like without diverting from what they can do in their own right. Like again, I don't want to see Hossen get completely bastardized for our infantry friends because that's a part of the game for them. And
Yeah,
you know, I feel like they need that play space because at the end of the day, as we said, this is a shooter. You're meant to be able to take your gun into battle, shoot things, and do well.
yeah.
Um,
Wouldn't it be cool if we could have, like, 3 or 4 continents open on a server? Like, if we had that
we
many
wouldn't
people
have this
playing
problem.
Planetside again, then you
Yeah,
could just pick the experience you wanted.
exactly. And that I
How
think is
cool
a
would that
big
be?
problem. Yeah, imagine if Oshur had launched with Hossen day one. Imagine that.
You mean,
We'd
like,
we'd we
back in the day, or you mean that they were both open at the same
sorry, yeah,
time?
back in the day, back in the day.
Sure, sure.
Imagine that we would have had an experience for everyone, and there would have been the choice of what do I feel like doing today? Well, I know I can get this here, I know I can get this here.
Mhm.
And I
And
get it, like, a lot of people ravel in the idea of all aspects of the game having power or having flexibility at any given one point in time, but sometimes while there is um there's something to be said about the variety being the spice of life,
yeah,
but I think some there's also some benefits to having n- restrictions might be the wrong word, but some degree of rules that have an impact on what works best here and what works best there. What what does something cater to? What does something else cater to? So you can get some sort of expectation of what to expect.
sure.
Um,
Almost like
like I
Planetside
know, like for
biomes, like gameplay biomes.
building an ecosystem to a
Yeah.
certain extent.
So,
Like
like,
Battlefield,
this sorry, go on, finish your point.
I was going to say like Battlefield 3, for example, with its DLCs
Mm,
back in the day, extremely targeted. Some players didn't like, I think there was Armored Kill, or Armored Warfare, whatever it was, featured the largest map in Battlefield history at the time.
mm,
Um, and then immediately after that, they released Close Quarters, which was a DLC all about CQC combat and was a lot of fun for infantry players.
sure.
So they were building out this ecosystem that who then people who were then able to like rent servers were able to customize that to their liking
Yeah,
essentially and build communities from there.
yeah. And you have
Um,
a spicy dish and a sweet dish. And if
correct,
you only
and
like spicy food, you can have that. Like,
exactly.
you can make
And if you
make
prefer
your own
both,
meal plan.
you can switch as you need to, and
Mhm.
it's something that's very difficult to achieve with Planetside right now because of the population required to house this game and
Yes. And this is where I think Rail's head is at, and he's gonna correct me if
Mhm.
I'm wrong here. But I think there's so much opportunity for Planetside if we can get more people playing it.
Yep,
If we can just get more bodies logged in at once, it opens
yep.
up so much. And
Mhm.
and what it also does is it takes pressure off certain parts of the game that were never going to deliver everything to everyone.
Yep.
And suddenly, when you so right now you go to the Planetside restaurant, and depending on when you get there, it's serving only desserts, or it's serving
Or
only
only
breakfast
breakfast.
food, right?
Yep,
Or it's serving only Chinese, or I don't know, whatever it is.
yep.
Um,
And
but
yeah,
if you get more
yep.
people in the door, you build it up, then suddenly you go in whenever you want, and you can get a dessert with coffee, and your friend can get and your friend can get a turkey sandwich, a club sandwich,
Exactly.
and your other friend can just get a drink from the bar. you
Hmm.
know, and suddenly everyone can feel more relaxed about being able to access the part of the Planetside formula that most interests them.
Yep. They
And
get access to the
if you
menu and they
can,
get to choose. Yeah.
yeah, and if you're Rel or if you're RPG or EG7, whatever,
Hmm.
you say, yeah, well, we could like try to balance maxes. We could like, deal with these, medic revive bandos or whatever kind of crazy outlier situations there are in the game. Or we could
Mm.
focus our energies on moving the needle towards having 5% more of the people who quit after 1 to 2 weeks not quit.
Yeah.
And do they care about revive bandos? Do they care about maxes? Maybe, maybe not. I think a lot of that decision making is something. If that is going on, I'm extremely sympathetic towards it.
Oh yeah. Like I do not envy the developers when it comes to working out the new player retention problem in this game without a doubt. Like, because every new player is going to have a different experience here too. And how do you accustom for all of those when Planetside tries to do so many different things?
Yeah,
That's just what the game is. It's not like it's not as much of an on rail shooter per se as what you'd expect to see out of other games. It tries to do a lot of things differently, and that is to its credit and to its and to its dismay at times.
yeah.
Um,
It's
and
a cursed problem. I think we talked about this in our last
correct,
podcast.
correct, and it's very much like it's kind of like right now, like with the Planetside restaurant analogy that we've just cooked up here. No
Mhm.
pun intended.
Ooh, yeah, keep it
Um,
going.
uh, yeah, yeah, I know, right? You've got some people who come in and the menu items are breakfast, and they're like, "Okay, I want breakfast right now. This is good."
Mhm.
But then you've got people who come in looking for dinner at breakfast, and breakfast menus on it. It's like, well, now what? So
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, it's a hard solution to solve without more players coming through the door. But how do you get those players to stick without making fundamental changes? And you know,
Yeah,
as I said, to some, fundamental changes exist elsewhere than to others do. So at
yeah.
the end of the day, by taking away from one place, it's a slicing the pie sort of thing. As soon as you shift that pie, in this case, shift where the game or what the game allows you to do from a certain aspect of the game, you take away from that percentage of players. So,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
I,
tough.
I'm totally sympathetic to the developers in regards to like making these balance calls and making the analysis to work out how to fix the game and what fixing the game means on an official level.
Yeah. Yeah, but, and then there's so the best retort, I think, to what you and I are saying now, to what I've said and you're kinda resonating with, is that PlanetSide will never appeal to more players, and what we have is what we've got, and why can't we focus on the people who already love the game and who are already putting thousands of hours and hundreds of dollars or
Mm,
something like that? Why can't we just say, "These are our people"? And maybe that is what's happening, I don't know. But the
yeah.
whole kind of Oshur excitement that kinda gets me excited is the meaning for the those who didn't have enough of it before. And I
Yep.
see how that could roll up to new player stuff. But I
I
also
agree.
see if you're an existing player who's been in pain because 3/4 of the time that you show up to get your coffee and a scone, it's just not there. And
Hmm.
even there, and even then, sometimes the coffee's not hot. Uh, the scones are 3 days old. Uh, it just
Yeah.
it doesn't live up to it because it's just so complicated to deliver those actual experiences. Um, I'm
And yeah.
sympathetic to the people who have fallen in love with any part of the game and can't get the best out of it. And I think it just so
Yep.
happens that the loudest voices in that 20%, in that 5% slice of people who look outside the game for content information and who are willing to speak about it, um, have the focus on Little Planetside because that's where it goes the deepest. That's where the Planetside kind of iceberg goes the deepest. There's the most to
Yep.
explore, the most to
Yep.
master, um, the most nuance, and the most
Yeah.
likely to be relevant because of the simple expedient of needing infantry to capture most points.
Yeah. And once you like, what happens in any competitor driven market when something that you go to consistently doesn't live up to its expectations? What do you do?
Well, I actually I had a suggestion about this. I did a video last year about this,
Okay.
um, and my proposal is to shrink PlanetSide, make it smaller,
Ooh. Ooh.
make it
Ooh,
smaller,
ooh,
baby.
ooh, ooh.
And it's very simple, just conceptually. Make
Walk me through it. Walk me through it.
Yeah. Actually, I a part of what inspired me to think about this was a suggestion you made in our podcast, a year and change ago about how you wanted to
Mhm.
see these bases that were the size of multiple bases, current planet side, where there's truly theaters for 96 plus Zergs to have effect on, rather than
Yep.
cramming themselves into, a single point outpost base like they often do.
Yep.
And I was trying to think about the new player problem and the fact that part of the challenge that new players run into is the sheer legibility of the experience. You're going to die 100 times an hour, depending on how you
Yep.
play as a new
Yep.
player, and you're going to die. And that could be 100 different ways, 100 different
Yeah.
weapons. You're dying to these guns. So good players tend to gravitate towards the same qualities in guns. So you think those guns are overpowered because the good players use them. We know that's not
Mhm.
really true. There really aren't that many outlier weapons,
No.
but the small differences pan out for over
Yeah.
time for those high skilled, high engaged players. Um, and it's so hard to understand what's even happening, how to access the planet side promise, that players just give up. It's too complicated.
Yeah.
It's not worth the
Yeah.
time, not worth the pain to get the payoff. And in a
Yep.
100% PvP game with skill bloat over almost a decade, it's just like, wow, this I can't sweat hard enough to make it worth my time.
Mhm.
So shrinking the game down is about making the experience more understandable by literally
Sure.
reducing the number of ways you can die by in some way constraining equipment. So you constrain equipment to say, okay, we're not going to have, I don't know, I don't really have any good ideas about how you could do this.
Right.
The idea doesn't go that far for me, but I
Are
think
you
as a
talking about like,
concept and
rem
also
rem
also the play space. I think make
sure.
the number of places you can go and the amount of players on the field smaller. So literally
Mm.
maps that are not designed for 1,000 players, the maps are designed for like 150, 200, which I think is the kind of experience that I don't know if this is actually true. I was gonna say the Planetside Arena was trying to make. I don't know if that's actually true.
Right, yeah, okay.
Um, but shrink it down, make the amount of things you can do and die from smaller, the number of people you can be killed by smaller, and the amount of space you have to navigate around in smaller.
Mhm.
Shrink it down a little bit.
Yep.
And I'm not a designer. I don't know the best way to do that. I think in the video I actually made a few suggestions. One of them that sounds surprisingly like Oshur, actually. But I don't feel attached to any of them.
Yeah. It's just more of a, sort of, throwing out ideas and seeing what sticks and, playing around with the formula a bit essentially.
Would that kind of idea be worth RPG's time, in your opinion?
I mean, Planetside Arena at one point was meant to be a smaller Planetside. It was meant to be the arena version of Planetside where it was, a bit more competitively minded. And it was going to be a great idea. I thought it really had the legwork to do good. If they just took the gunplay, just tightened up the movement a bit, tightened up your animations, your connectivity, stuff like that, we could have had a really, really good Like we could have had a great game on our hands there.
Yeah.
The issue we ran into was, well, we're doing a battle royale now. It's like, well, you're about 3 years too late to the trend. Um,
Well, they
so
weren't
yeah,
late. They just weren't as good as Apex, man.
that's a good point
Apex
too. Like,
destroyed them.
well, I mean, yeah, and like Apex came out like the month it was meant to originally, and they had to delay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
And Apex
we were
just,
we were originally gonna
yeah,
get Arena in January of that year. I think it was
yep,
2018 or 19, I can't remember. And then Apex
yeah,
came in literally in February.
yeah,
Um, and Apex was just it came out at a higher level of polish. It fully adopted the
mhm,
hero model, which makes it way more marketable, way more modern.
yep,
Arena wasn't
yep,
doing that. It was going more old school. And it had that cool
yeah.
squads model, which seemed like a small innovation too. And the
Yeah,
hero
and it was a
abilities that comes with that stuff.
yeah, and it was a shame because I thought Arena had a huge opportunity to be a part of the Planetside ecosystem. I really did. Um, I thought it would have been a great sort of, if you had like similar shooting mechanics and similar movement, it would have been a great training ground for newer players to then come to the Planetside 2 world and try the more open world experience. I even like at one point posited that, you know, use Planetside Arena as a means to expand into the Planetside 2 ecosystem and have like, if you wanted to not play, I guess you could call it the expanded warfare of Planetside 2, you can jump into a more
Oh man,
posited official 6v6
that is
experience. Like
exactly my retroactive fantasy for Planetside Arena.
I would have loved that, man. Like I would have, and I remember it too. Like when Arena got announced, I think it was announced to be a battle royale out of the gates. That clearly didn't help. But I saw what they were doing. I saw the idea of like of TDM, capture the flag, domination.
Yeah,
Like this all sounded really freaking cool, and I was like, okay,
yeah,
I could get behind this.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
I love PlanetSide 2 shooting mechanics. I love how it plays. This could have been amazing.
Hmm.
And if you wanted to make it pay to play, make it a pay to play additional to the client of PlanetSide 2 if you had to. Like, bake it in, make it a DLC,
Yeah.
and people would have come. I reckon
I
people
always
would have
thought that
come.
Sanctuary was like, of course, like this should be where the games connect.
Yeah, yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I agree, and it would have made to me, it would have made Sanctuary even more useful in that regard too.
Mhm.
Like, I view Arena as a huge missed opportunity, and although I know a lot of the community disagree with me on that one, because Arena was viewed as this threat to PlanetSide 2. And I guess in a certain way it may have been with like dev resources being allocated and stuff like that. But man, I view it as a huge missed opportunity. I really
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Well, I think if it had either not run afoul of Apex or
Mm,
not run afoul of the Planet Side community, it could
yeah,
have occupied a niche probably.
I
But
agree.
it I I think I've even heard, I can't remember who it was. Maybe Paul Diazio, used to be a programmer on the Planet Side team,
Sure.
rant about forcing it to be a battle royale, when that wasn't the
Hmm.
original vision. I don't think that was ever the vision that the
No.
people inside were passionate about. Um, and
And you could tell. You could tell from the get go.
and that I don't know if the Planet Side 2 community would have accepted it better if it weren't for the battle royale thing. Maybe it's hard to say. Um, but
Yeah.
by not if the game had failed by comparison to Apex, but still managed to catalyze most of the PlanetSide 2 scene, maybe even cannibalize it, which I think is what everyone felt like was happening because the PlanetSide 2 scene was already so small. And how can a
Hmm.
percentage of this game go to a new game? Like the math doesn't work. Ah,
But that experience is what some of that player base wanted in the first place. So they're like, okay,
yeah,
cool. This is going to be good. This is exactly what we wanted. It's like the whole Battle Islands thing. It's like, yeah, those smaller segmented experiences that people have been vying for,
yeah.
you know.
But yeah, let's pour one out for the Planetside cinematic gaming universe, where Arena and Planetside 2 both exist and they connect to each other at Sanctuary, and you can get cosmetics in one and use them in the other. And
Oh,
you go from playing it around Indar to say, "Hey, my match is up," and you hop over to, doing a capture the flag in Arena, and the games feed into each other, and you have the weird boomer old heads playing PlanetSide 2, and then the short attention span Zoomers all playing PlanetSide Arena. Like, that's kind of the dream, right?
oh, like, finishing an alert, you're like, I'm gonna go do some TDM to wind off for the night, and
Yeah,
then I'll
sometimes
go
you
to
just want,
bed.
like, another 15 minutes of PlanetSide, but
Yeah.
do you know the start of a new continent? It sucks, it's so slow.
Especially late night too. Like if I'm lucky and I get home from work at like a decent hour and I see like there's a continent that's halfway through an alert
Uh,
on Connery late of the night, I'm like, okay, this will be good for a little bit. And then the continent shifts, I'm like, and there goes the population. Very good. Okay.
yeah, and you're just too tired to figure out how to make your own fight. You're too tired to,
Oh
like,
god, no, yeah. Like
let me
last
find
thing
a
I'm
group
gonna
of
do is drive
people and
asunder from the
and
warp gate. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's like, oh, fuck it."
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh
Yeah,
bruh.
yeah.
Make
Well,
makes you sad.
yeah, man. What else you wanna talk about, man?
I don't know, like, we're both here on YouTube now. That's exciting. Um,
Yeah, streamer stuff. Why did you
yeah.
change?
Why did I change? Holy shit.
How big were you on Twitch when you changed? I think that's a critical data point.
I think I was at 4,500 followers,
Okay.
which most YouTube channels that start on YouTube then go to Twitch for streaming tend to have that sort of
Mhm.
pretty tiresome effort. And so that was part one. It was like the crossover rate between platforms wasn't that great for one. A big like I don't know, man. I'm gonna sound like a real. I'm gonna sound real, you know, I guess boomerish here, I guess, but
Yes. Bring on your inner boomer.
tw- yeah, exactly. Twitch ain't the same anymore.
Huh, how so?
I don't know, man. Like it seems the sentiment over on that platform lately has been very like when I left, they were testing the new pay to boost feature, which was just the most alt like anyone who's done any sort of looking into how media platforms work and how realistic engagement is created knows that that was the just biggest cash grab you have ever seen in your life.
What does pay to boost do?
Uh, so pay to boost was a feature on Twitch where a viewer or the streamer could pay money to boost the stream for X amount of views. So when I say views, I mean you could pay the stream to appear
To
on the
recommend.
recommended page. Yep.
Oh god.
And it was and it didn't
Uh,
it would recommend your stream X amount of times. And
that
those
is late stage
recommendations
capitalism shit right there. Fuck.
and these recommendations only they counted as soon as someone scrolled past your stream. So if they scrolled past your stream, that was a recommend gone. Um, it didn't even have to be a click through. So that was in testing. I thought that was the laziest cash grab I'd ever seen in my life. So decided to avoid it like the plague. Um, like the gambling meta on Twitch, I was like, oh no,
Yeah.
get this shit off the platform.
Yeah.
Um, like the hot tub meta was weird. Like I get it. Like people like to do that stuff, and I'm like, you know what?
That site is for
In
that
that
stuff now. Like, it is all
it
about,
is.
like,
Uh,
giving
And
those girls a chance to do their thing, whether you like it or
and
not.
look, I have no disrespect to people who decide to make that kind of content, like, you do you. If the platform lets you do it, take advantage of it, like, go get that bag. I've got no like, it's
Yeah.
whatever.
It's not hating on
I
creators.
Yeah, I have no disrespect to the creators that do it. I
Mhm.
And, like, if Twitch was to start creating an 18 only section of the platform, then I probably wouldn't have a problem with Twitch doing it and facilitating in the first place.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, minors are on the website, so that's going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Um,
But right now they're trying to have their
but
cake and eat it too.
exactly. But the big thing, and the latest React meta, I have to admit, I hate. I think it's lazy content. I think the React meta is horrible for the industry, and I hope someone goes down big for it. But that's me.
What's bad
Um,
about React?
I don't mind React content if you're offering, like, for example, Shokta reacts to my videos often. I don't mind that. He credits
Mhm.
me. He, offers constructive criticism, stuff like that. The watch party, though, of watching like big media corporation shows is so damaging to the platform. It is ridiculous. Um,
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing until pretty recently. It's
it's
pretty
insane.
shocking
Oh,
that it gets by copyright. I don't
I
imagine that that will last long.
no, I am convinced a streamer will go down big for it.
But
Because I do not. There is no doubt in my mind that one of these big studios like WB, like Universal, whatever, are building some sort of lawsuit ready to hit either Twitch or, ready to hit either Twitch or the creators with. Like it could bump Twitch out of copyright safe harbor, which could destroy the website. It could destroy the career of a creator with billions of dollars of fines, jail time. It's insane. It
yeah,
blows me away that this is happening.
it makes me think back to the old days of, like, Napster, where you'd see people like news stories of random
Yeah,
people, like, being sued by the RIAA for, like, hundreds of
yeah.
millions of dollars, and it's like,
It's like,
"Okay." Like,
yeah,
I work at a coffee shop.
that's it blows my mind, and it's like the whole Twitch music DMCA situation. This is just that, but amplified.
Yeah, and the way they
And
handled music is so chicken shit. It's hilarious.
it is, it is, it really. And again, just back to back to back. Like, so yeah. To return to the point at hand, that back to back to back, plus the big data breach that happened back in
Right.
October, I think.
Yeah.
That to me was like, okay, I cannot even come close to trusting this platform anymore.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
they feel a little snaky, right?
yeah,
Like they're
it
trying
feels like
to make sure that they don't lose what they have rather than trying
yeah,
to be anything cool, be anything bigger. Like they have no
exactly.
vision of themselves uh growing in the future.
No,
It's just
no. They just want to stick in their little corner and do their thing. And like, they offer creators a dog shit split as well. So it's like,
yeah,
what's the point?
the 50% split is pretty hilarious.
50-50. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway,
So
that's me
were
getting
those so it sounds like your problems were the fact some that just kinda overall the platform seemed to be going in the wrong direction.
yeah, that, and I just saw more opportunity on YouTube. Like, more of my subscriber count was here already.
Right.
I had a means to, like, tie in VOD content with live stream content a lot easier.
Yeah.
It just made more sense,
Yeah.
logistically speaking, I think.
Makes sense. That's pretty
Yeah.
similar to what it was for me too.
Yeah, I
Um,
was about to ask you, what was your ticking
yeah.
point, my friend?
So I'm in a
What
different
brought you
world than
over?
you. I had about the
Yeah.
same number of followers on Twitch as subs on YouTube when I made the choice, but which is just about 700.
Yep.
I'm a real small scale creator at this point. Still very early.
Hmm.
Um, but for me, I the main payload of my content is this, talking like this. And we do talk
Yep.
about games, but I like to use games as a starting point to talk about the human condition and the
Yeah.
way we all come together or fail to, perhaps,
Yeah.
and and what we can use games for. Um,
Mhm.
that's what I'm interested in doing, and I don't think that Twitch is a very good place to do that. I think
Yeah.
Twitch has a niche that's very comfortable. There are some notable exceptions.
Yeah.
I'd look to like Healthy Gamer GG as a pretty great exception,
Sure.
doing mental
Sure.
health content that is very but that is a incredibly savvy operation that knows exactly like they couldn't have targeted their content more effectively. Like they're just
No.
so smart with what they're doing.
Yeah.
and
They
also
are
just very
fully
high quality
prepared.
content. Yeah, I love what they do.
Yeah,
Um, but Twitch doesn't give a very comfortable home for podcasts unless your podcast is about streamers being together with other streamers who have
yeah,
built-in Twitch communities.
yeah,
So
exactly.
occasionally when I'm on Twitch, I'll get a big bump from because I'll be interviewing someone who has a big Twitch audience.
Yeah,
Or I'll get a raid, which is very nice when that happens. But
yeah.
usually my content doesn't look like theirs. And so the
No,
people who come over to me that way don't oftentimes stick around.
yeah,
And so there's that. I just didn't feel like podcasting sat very well for what I was doing there on Twitch in terms of what people came to the platform for.
yep,
Whereas on YouTube, it fits great. Um,
yeah,
you can YouTube is a very comfortable place for podcasts of almost any kind to be. And
100%.
I had the same amount of subscribers here as I had followers on Twitch. YouTube also
Sure.
does a few things I really like, where it lets me schedule streams. So since so much of what I do is
Yeah,
interviews,
yeah,
I can build the hype ahead of time way more effectively than I can on Twitch. Because I'm not a
100%.
because I don't have a partner agreement with Twitch, I have to stream at a very small PP bit rate. Makes everything look
Yep.
like dog shit when I'm putting a game on screen.
Yeah.
YouTube, that
I mean,
restriction's lifted, and transcoding's way more available. It's a much better experience for everyone who consumes my content, and similar to you, the best version of my content is already on YouTube.
yeah,
And most of the people, the last thing that really clinched it for me was the observation that most people who follow me on Twitch don't do it when I'm streaming. I get the most follows on Twitch when I publish a video on YouTube,
yep,
and
yep.
people click through the link in the description to find me on Twitch.
Yes, sir.
And if people are already finding me from YouTube, why would I invoke a
Then
middleman if I don't need to?
Deeg, I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
Yes.
man. We're officially
Makes
part of the
my
Google Hive mind.
seriously. Yeah, it makes me happy to hear that because I hear a lot of creators who are married to Twitch who are like, oh, but I get all my I get good turnover rate from YouTube. It's like, yes, but imagine what you could do if you just consolidated a little bit.
Yeah,
And I hear a lot of people like go like, oh, but diversification is good. What if a platform goes down tomorrow? Which
true.
is fair, but let's all remember we are talking about YouTube here.
It's YouTube.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
everyone has
and
YouTube. I can tell someone I'm streaming on YouTube and they'll actually be able to find me. If I tell like a random
exactly,
family member I'm on Twitch, they'll be like, "Is that like a hacker website?
exactly,
Is that like a porn
exactly. It's like,
website?" Like they don't know what it is. It's
uh,
actually
is
outside
now
of
sometimes.
yeah, exactly. And also, um, YouTube will recommend my content. I have under 1,000 subscribers. Every recommendation I can get means so much to me. So
Whereas insert Twitch's kingmaker system, where you're on the bottom of the page if you don't have more than
yeah, and
X amount of viewers for your category.
it makes Twitch a game about, I think, how many hours can you put in? So
Yeah,
people can treat you like a TV channel that they turn on at a certain time of day.
yep.
And I just can't compete with that kind of
No,
output.
no, no. I've always said that you need content out there that does the work for you when you're not actively sitting in your chair, create like streaming that content out there. Twitch doesn't do that for you at all. There's
Mhm,
absolutely zero discoverability on that platform when you are not live. So
mhm.
if you go live at a set part of the day every day, you're achieving, like say you stream 4 hours, you're streaming 4/24ths of the potential audience you could reach if that content was discoverable elsewhere.
Yeah, yeah. Only being discoverable when you're live.
It's why I see a lot of creators moving to YouTube now because they're getting amazing um, deals that means they can stream less and publish VOD content more.
People who are getting deals. Did you get a deal to come to YouTube?
Yeah. God no. God no. I wish. God damn. It would have been
Yeah,
lovely, but
exactly.
no.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So what's you're on YouTube now, going strong.
Hmm.
What's next for you, brother?
It's a good question, really. Like, I'm sort of just waiting for the next game to come out that I can really enjoy. Like, obviously, Planetside, I'm still jumping in and doing stuff for because that's
Yeah,
that's the thing. I want to. I don't know if you've seen it. There's this new Play Leap or Leap game coming out.
I've seen
It's
it.
like a. I'm
It's
very
like a
very
zip line
intrigued.
thing, and I've seen a lot of people
Yeah,
excited about it. I think I saw a baddie made a video about it that I watched.
yeah. Baddie did do a video on it, and I actually got interested on the game through Baddie's video. So
Mhm.
I was like,
Mhm.
oh damn, this actually looks really good. Like, takes back to those Titanfall 2 days a bit, which
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I miss really badly. But anyway, yeah, that's sort of me at the moment. Like, just doing what I can do, making the most of what we can. Again, really wish Battlefield lived up, but
Yeah.
I can only wish so
That's
much.
a tough one. That's a tough one. So, yeah, it sounds like when it comes to, like, the future of Kami, it's like, what other games can you you branch out to that then become implicated with your success?
Yeah, that's sort of the big question at the moment. Like first person shooters are definitely sort of where I'll be sticking because that's I think the one comparison I can draw no matter what. Um,
Yeah. That gives you good permeability with your audience too.
correct, and it means I can enjoy other games outside of the eyes of the content creation area, which, as I
You
think
play
we've
games
discussed
without
plenty of.
without making content about it? That's, like, illegal for
Oh,
creators.
it's dangerous, isn't it? Like, yeah, I
How
know
dare
this
you,
is
sir, not make content
just
from your
bonk me
gaming.
straight to jail. Seriously.
Like what? Like what? Give me an example, I'm curious.
All right. Oh, here we go. Love me some. So I'm a huge motorsport guy. So I
Oh,
love me some Gran. I love me some Gran Turismo
sure,
on my
sure.
PlayStation. Yep, huge motorsport guy. Love it so much. Um, what else? In my like, I haven't played it a lot lately, but I love Supreme Commander Forged Alliance. One of my favorite RTSs of all time.
Oh, an
Um,
RTS. Ooh,
an RTS, great
there's a
time,
niche
great
genre.
time.
Okay.
Yeah, like 1,000 unit cap per game, stuff like that. Great time.
Okay.
Um, great time. Um, what else have I been playing lately? It's tough actually. I've been doing a bit of like a little bit of, stuff like City Skylines and Planet Zoo as well on the side. I like those very chilled simulation games. But
We're
yeah,
kind of slow down the
yeah,
pace a
I don't
little
know.
bit. Yeah, not twitchy.
Yeah, yeah. I've been playing through Red Dead Redemption 2 as well lately, which is just gorgeous game.
Yeah, I've heard
Gorgeous
that.
game.
Heard that.
Mm, yeah.
And what about IRL? I know that you just got back from vacation. I've seen you talk about how
Yeah.
you're gonna take some time from the game to do some photography and stuff. Talk to me about how things are going outside the game, outside the content game.
Yeah, I mean, the trip I just had away was hilarious, good fun. We went up to Gold Coast, Queensland, which is big tourist hotspot down here in Australia, and loved it. Loved every
Mhm.
second of it.
Cool.
Spent way much more time intoxicated than I did sober. So
Let's go. There you go.
true,
That's your
true
20s.
boys
Enjoy it
trip.
while it lasts.
Yes, yes, sir.
All right.
But no, yeah, I've been getting back into photography. I've got I started up a photography Instagram account lately, which was a bit of fun. Um,
Oh.
yeah,
Yeah, what do you
and
take
have been
pictures of, man?
anything I really just find like I've been doing a lot of landscape and like
Okay.
nature stuff lately.
Uh-huh.
Like yeah, a lot of my stuff is like, just taking appreciation of like small things and like
Mm.
zooming in on them and stuff like that. And
Mm.
like, I got some back in Christmas time, I took a photo of like some fairy lights that were hanging off a tree and got really nice and enclosed, tried to get the lighting right. That was good fun.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm going to the zoo tomorrow, so I'm gonna try and get some good shots there as well, and
Mhm.
just really whatever. Like, yeah, I've always had a love for photography, and when I got my new streaming camera, um, I could use it for photography, so I figured I'd take it out
Oh,
there,
that's
get some
cool.
lenses. Yeah,
Yeah, double dipping on it. Explain this to me, like, 'cause this doesn't sound fun to me at all. I don't understand why people would wanna take pictures for fun. I don't get it,
yeah, I
honestly.
don't know. Yeah, I like capturing moments,
Mm.
um, and creating. I guess not. I like creating stills that, like, just take like give us a moment to appreciate a moment of time
Mm,
and something that we wouldn't normally appreciate. Like, like taking a moment to stop and take a photo of a certain flower at a certain angle that we again like wouldn't notice normally in our day to day.
mhm,
Like, you get that angle, you get down there, you take a photo, and you're like, oh, okay, this is what life looks like from this perspective,
mhm,
or this is what life looks like right at this moment of time, and you can sort of enjoy that a little bit.
mhm.
Um, and it also comes with the challenge, I guess, of getting the technical stuff right. Like, what
Right.
lens do you use?
Another technical
What's your
hobby like
ISO?
streaming. Mhm.
Yeah, what's your ISO setting gonna be? What's your exposure like? What's your shutter speed? Stuff like that. Like getting like, and all of these impact the image differently. How much bokeh effect you got, what's your focal length, stuff like that. Again, I'm speaking in mumbo jumbo here, I'm sure, to a few
I'm
people,
gonna ask
but
you about this stuff offline, by the way. Like, up my own game.
yeah. All right, sounds good. We can have that conversation. I look forward to that. But no, yeah, it's a nice technical hobby and it's a nice artistic hobby, which
Yeah,
is something I kind of vibe with. So
that's cool, man. Do you how
yeah,
long
cheers, dude.
yeah, and how does this all fit in for, Kami late 20s, early 30s? How long do you see yourself doing this content stuff?
I guess as long as I enjoy it, really. Like,
Yeah. Do you think you'll ever stop? Do you foresee a point in your life where you wouldn't wanna do this anymore?
I don't think so. I'll probably slow down from time to time.
Mm.
Um, but to me, content creation, obviously there's the bonus of one day being able to do this full time.
Right.
And
That specter that's out there. It's like,
yeah,
"Can
it's
I
it'd,
make a
it'd be a
living
nice
from
thing.
this?"
Yeah, and it's something I genuinely enjoy. And it's something that, if I was to do full time, I've tried doing full time in the past when COVID hit. We've had this conversation before.
Mm.
Last time where I did go full time for a while, and that was eye opening in its own right. But I think to me, while the prospect of doing this full time is fun one day, to me the most important part of it is sort of just challenging myself, but also just forming a community. Like, it's all about, for me, building this place where people like me who enjoy video games and enjoy talking about video games can sort of have a place to come to and feel like they can discuss it safely or discuss it and feel heard a
Mhm.
little bit.
Mhm.
And to me, gaming is very social unless when it's not, when you feel like turning yourself off and just doing your own thing for a while. But to me, the act of online gaming and the act of talking about the games that we're passionate about, that there's something really special there to me, and I like
Mhm.
cultivating that. And as long as there's a community to cultivate, and as long as there's interest in what I do, then yeah, I think I'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
Um,
There's something really cool about that, about being connected with
Thanks, man.
people who are kind of going through the similar experiences, people you can bounce off of, people you can learn from. That's really a
Yeah,
beautiful thing, actually. I think that's
no,
so
cheers, man.
important.
I mean, I went to a school where gaming wasn't really a forefront activity. Like, if you liked games, you weren't exactly in with the cool kids, or you weren't
Mm,
exactly in with, like, you weren't considered someone who was sociable at the time. So,
okay.
to
Is
to
that a
to
thing?
then
Are there schools where that's considered popular?
I mean, like, I don't know, the culture at my school was very, sporty, Giga Chad sort of vibe. Like, there was a lot of that going around. Like, here in Australia, it's very much like, you fuck with people for fun. Exactly. You bunch your arms out, you walk down the hallway and try to take out the nerd that's in the way. Um,
Yeah, okay. I feel
um,
ya. So
but,
you
like,
were
for
you
me,
were a
like,
nerd. You were one of the nerds.
oh, 100%, brother. Like, seriously, I was the kid that, instead of going and playing cricket or basketball or whatever with, the kids outside every day, I
Mhm.
came home and played my Xbox. Like, that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Um, and like, there were a few people in my friendship group who were into that, but it wasn't normal. It wasn't huge. So,
Mhm.
like, to me, being able to form a community online of people who were also into that sort of thing, and who were happy, who wanted to talk about it, and you could feel free to do so. Like that to me was very, very important.
Yeah. That, if you allow me to relate to that for a moment.
Yeah, of course.
Let me see how I can say this without getting too personal.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
no, please take your time.
I think in some sense, the most important thing that I do when I'm doing this is find someone to talk to who cares.
Yep.
And part of that is matching interests, right?
Hmm.
If I try to go to my wife and talk to her about the dynamics of three faction politics in Planetside, oh boy,
Yep.
speed at which her eyes glaze over. But I want to talk about that stuff. I do. I find it interesting. It feels meaningful to me. Um,
Exactly.
and it's
It's
painful to not have someone out there who cares about what you care about and then by implication cares about you. There's something
yep.
about there's something I get out of my relationship with, like, say, my parents or my wife who are love me unconditionally for reasons that are not about my interests. And
Yeah.
that's a beautiful, necessary thing that really, really
Yep.
sustains me. But what I get out of this and out of the community of people who watch my podcasts and hang out on my streams is
Yeah.
also necessary. And
Yeah.
it's all about figuring out what the world is about. It's all about trying to get out there on the edges of the meaning of all this as we understand it and
Yep.
be explorers together.
Yep.
And that's why I think that it's so important to, when you're cultivating community, do what I heard you talk about, which is allow multiple points of view to coexist.
Yep.
Um, and be
Couldn't agree more.
welcoming to disagreement and to
Yep.
even show disagreement, like your
Sure.
Max video, perhaps, or like me interviewing someone who I don't agree with about something. Um,
Sure. Yeah. Having room for that style of discourse, I think, is very important. And sometimes, especially in the online space we live in now, sometimes finding that does come from taking on board mediums that, like what we're doing here.
mhm,
It's all about searching. Sometimes it's about searching for people to engage with you in that realm, and we do that by publishing our opinions and thoughts online.
mhm.
And we find there's it's weird. It's almost like there's a purpose to the content, but then again, the response is also the purpose.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like a it's like a it's a weird it's a purpose seeking a purpose,
Yeah.
which
It,
is
it, it's
its own reward.
there's a reciprocal nature to it. Tell me if this is true
Yeah.
for you, but
Hmm.
I feel like every time I make content, I of course unambiguously am creating a piece of content that lives out in the world. If I go away, the content will still be there.
Yep.
But the main product that I create when I create is myself.
Yeah.
I'm making myself as I go along. Every single time I sit down to make something, I'm
Yeah.
forced to confront my attitudes, my biases, whether they match up with the world or not, and to put
Yep.
my skills to the task of trying to get those things out there, to improve my
Mhm.
skills, to hone them. Um,
Of course.
and I have changed my mind. I remember talking with you about Outfit Wars a little over a
Yeah.
year ago, and
Hmm. Of
really actually sounding a lot about Outfit Wars the same way I sound about Oshur right now. So I'm cognizant of this bias that I have, an
course.
optimism bias, let's call it.
Yep. I think you and I fit into the same category there.
Yeah. Um, and Now I've come around on Outfit Wars, and that I was so excited about the fact that it was actually Planetside, that it was 3 faction, that it actually was a reflection of what
Hmm.
the game was.
Yep.
And and then Outfit Wars became this thing that happened in a tournament bracket,
Yep.
and with points that carried over between ratings, and I think the whole thing just falls apart when it's not just, an exhibition match.
Yep.
It falls
I
apart
agree wholeheartedly.
when people are playing at cross purposes.
Yep.
Um, and that the fact that so much went into creating that thing that seems like it didn't quite work and maybe can't, makes me really
Mm.
bummed out and sad.
Yeah.
I feel like a part of me died when I realized that Outfit Wars would have been better either without a bracket or without a third faction.
Yep.
That really sucks.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
But I
Yeah.
had to
You sort of go.
change in order to get there. I had something about me changed along the way. Maybe I just learned more about the game. Maybe I developed a little more as a person. I don't know what it was,
Yep.
but um,
We evolve over time though, and that comes either via our own self realizations or our exposure to challenging medium.
yeah. And this all maybe goes back a little bit to the conversation we had earlier about drama. And
Hmm.
the cool thing about conflict is it's the
Yep.
only thing in the world that really makes you grow.
This
And
is true.
the downside of avoiding drama in order to pursue calmness is shutting you off from opportunities to grow by resolving conflict.
Yep.
And that's why I sit down the Commander Series of the world and ask them about the Shocktors of the world.
Hmm.
Because I want to see the community grow, because I want to see myself grow.
Yep.
It's a selfish thing that I project out onto the world around me, and I hope it's
Yep.
for every. I hope because it's best for me. It's best for everyone too.
Well, by doing that, what you're doing is essentially challenging the exact thing we brought up earlier. That is these echo chambers. You are crossing the streams. You are trying to create these points of not conflict, but I think these points of seeking resolution, um, where people are forced to exit their comfort zones, which at the end of the day is a healthy thing to do. As soon as you breach what you're comfortable with and challenge yourself in a means of challenging your opinion to try and gain a better understanding of where someone is coming from or what have you, then you become more of an authority on the position they stand, and therefore you can build more of an authority on where you stand.
Hmm.
Um, and in the world of content in particular, like to loop back to sort of content creation, I guess a little bit as well, that to me is one of the most important parts of being a content creator at all is the importance of authority.
Hmm.
If you speak on a topic, or if you speak on a topic, if you discuss a topic, if you come into a debate and you don't know how to address it, you don't know how to respond, you don't know how to relate to it, it's very hard to be an authority and come across as an unbiased or a level-headed individual in said debate.
Hmm.
Um, and I feel like you can't do that without at least having an understanding or trying to have an understanding of both sides at play.
Hmm. Or maybe in some way being clear about what authority you do have when you come into it.
Correct.
Like one of the tricks
Correct.
I keep using is the fact that I consider myself to be a very average Planetside player.
Yep.
I have done very serious competitive stuff in my past. I'm going to be 40 in a couple years. Holy shit! But in my early 20s, I actually did a lot of that stuff,
Yep.
and I know what that world looks like. But I don't
Yeah.
occupy that sweaty world anymore. So,
Yeah.
but I also take the time to really understand it and to really
Hmm.
visit with the Lexes of the world to
Yep.
understand, really understand, and open myself to being wrong. And so the authority that I have is a a distributed thing,
Yeah.
and, I am really grateful that everyone like you, like Lex, and all the other folks I've interviewed who will make the time to sit down and do this because this is awesome to me. This is
Yeah.
it gets me up in the morning. Every single day, I have a podcast at the end of the day. It's like I have to deal with my job first, but I'm
Mhm.
not. Every single day I wake up with a podcast to do, it's all I'm thinking about. It is so
Yeah.
hard to think about the work. It is so hard to think about anything I need to get done other than this
Yeah.
awesome conversation I'm about to have. That's the way I felt this morning.
Yeah. Oh, well, we appreciate you, cultivating the opportunity for it to happen, my friend. We really do.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah, the idea of, yeah, I guess to loop back, the idea of authority is, yeah, so important to me. Um,
So authority comes from command. It comes from understanding.
Understanding, I think, is most important with authority. If you understand something and you have the experience with something in some way, shape, or form, and you credit that experience appropriately as well, I think you're in a position to speak on something with some degree of authority.
Mhm.
Um, like, I know I would never speak on how to fly an ESF in this game, you
I've
know?
heard you say that you would never make a video
Yeah.
like an ESF guide because it's
Never.
so far outside your wheelhouse.
Correct. And it would be from a place of I feel like it would be disingenuous for me to do so.
Yeah,
Um,
it'd be fake.
I also know I'm not the best at infantry play in this game,
Mhm.
mechanically speaking, but I understand enough about the fundamentals of the game. I understand enough about, I think, the weaponry, recoil handling, gunplay, settings of the game and how to optimize your frames per second and how that results in better performance to the think where I can at least talk about it with some degree of authority.
So the
There's probably
infantry
people out
domain.
there. Yeah, I know there's probably some people out there who could do better than I do. Like there
Mhm.
was a particular video. There was so I did my. I want to talk about this because this is something that I ran into recently, and it sort of
Mm.
challenged my sense of authority a little bit. Actually,
Okay.
um, I did my guide to infantry video, and a bloke by the name of character name I think it was,
Hmm.
um, in the comment section, um, called me out and said this is a terrible guide for whatever reason. I don't know why he thought so. Maybe I think it was because I didn't cover enough. I sort of
Okay.
scratched the s- I sort of scratched the skin, sort of scratched the surface, left it at that.
That was
Um,
superficial. That was his critique.
I think so. I
Okay.
think so. Not word for word, but that was mainly it.
What'd you take
And I
from
sort
that?
of challenged him. I said, "Well,
Mm.
okay, go make one. Go make a video better, and
Mhm.
I'll watch it. So tell me when it's done, and I'll come and see it." And he did it. Credit to him. He came out and he
Oh,
did it.
wow. Hell
Yeah,
yeah, stepping
and he
up. I
said,
love that energy. Let's go.
Me too. I was very, very impressed. And the dude posted a video and he ripped my intro, which was hilarious. I credit where it's due. It was clearly a stab back at me. So
Uh,
he ripped my intro music. He
he
used
picked up the
my
gauntlet.
animation. Yeah, and he made a guide. And like, obviously, like, I've spent a lot of time working on production quality and stuff like that. So clearly, that was something that you know, I wasn't going to critique that because production quality is something that I've spent years working on. This guy hasn't made as many videos, so that's fine. I was more interested about the substance. Um, yeah, actually, sorry, Kai just said in chat, you're the last person who should be making a guide on infantry, and it shows. There it is.
Oh,
Um,
oh, that
yeah, it
burns.
was brutal. That was
Fuck.
brutal. So I challenged him, and when he came out and he made the video, I said to him, "Look, man, power to where it's due. You made a video, and the substance was good. Obviously, you took a slash at me. Whatever, it is what it is. You critiquing my work and you came out and you made something better and it
Was it
challenged my
better, do you
authority on
think?
it. I think it was better in like I think my presentation was a little smoother in general, but
Of course. Seasoned YouTuber.
substance wise the dude covered a lot that I missed and he did a good
Mm.
job on addressing a lot of the aspects of playing the infantry game of the
Could you give
infantry
me an
side of the game
example of
better.
something you missed that he got?
Um, he definitely talked a bit better about movement in the game and how to sort of I think it was about movement mechanics, and he
Okay.
definitely, I think, went a bit more in depth as to bursting and stuff like that as well.
Okay.
Um,
Like, I need
as
to
a
watch
raw
this.
example, I'm yeah, it was a good it was a very substance heavy video that did manage to get a lot of things right in regards to how to play better at infantry, and it challenged my authority.
Okay.
And it did so in a way that there was a little bit of sass to it, but, I called him out, and the dude responded,
Mhm.
and he critiqued my work, and he did something which, in some respects, was better. So, nothing but respect for the guy.
Okay.
So,
Is that where it ended? Have you heard from the guy since?
we actually exchanged a bit in his comment section a bit,
Uh-huh.
um, and we sort of buried any hatchet that was left present, which I don't think there really was one afterwards. But I said, "Hey, dude, I put the call out and you answered, and you've done so pretty well here." So yeah, I I respect people who challenge my authority in a way that puts me in a place where I may need that done. Like that's fine. If I'm wrong, tell
Yeah.
me.
The, um in order to grow, to become, we have to invoke the essence of the fool, to allow ourselves to be
Yeah,
wrong, to be new, to be fresh to something. There's a vulnerability to
exactly.
that.
Yeah,
Authority is something that happens along the way. It sounds like authority for you is not just necessarily about being the most knowledgeable or about being the authority, right? Authority with a capital A or something
hmm
like that. It's about having what you put out there be in sync with what is true. And
yeah,
so you made the comparison about, say, aerial domain mastery versus infantry domain mastery, but even with the infantry domain, you're saying, hey,
mm,
like this guy totally, in some ways, managed to one up my mastery, not of YouTube and not of production, but of the actual substance. And
yeah.
what do you take from that? Like, do you go back and do you practice? Do you, take what you learned from him? How do you proceed from that moment?
Like it's not going to be something that I genuinely am going to generally am going to go out and make another video for. Like that video's done, and I don't like doing yearly content and rehashing over and over again personally. Um,
Except for this one.
except for this one, exactly. No, but like this dude made a video, and it's part of the Planetside ecosystem now. Um, it's not going to be as charged SOE wise as my video is, but it's out there, and people who search for those keywords are going to find it um, at some point. So, like
So
to
do you present
me,
yourself differently now? Like, do you see yourself differently in terms of your infantry mastery? Would you make a different decision now if you'd seen that video beforehand? Like, I guess
I probably was
I'm
I
just
probably would have
curious,
still
like,
done the
how this affects future comedy.
it doesn't I still would have done the guide, and I still probably would have done it the exact same way,
Okay.
because it's my personal guide, it's my personal experience talking from the sense of authority that I do still believe I carry. It's just obviously like I also understand that I'm not like I know for a fact that if Lex and I were put in the same fight or in the same base one on one, for example, he would wipe the floor with me and
Yeah.
would do so all the way to Sunday.
Yep.
Um, and I still believe, despite that, I have some degree of authority to talk about that side of the game. But I also
Okay.
completely understand that there are people out there who do it better. I guess what I did there is I sort of challenged somebody who challenged my authority to
Mhm.
go out and prove their own.
Yeah.
And
And they question you on your mastery, so you kinda question them on theirs. And the fact they
yeah,
actually stepped up and made a video
they
is like
stepped up to the
Chad as
plate.
fuck.
They stepped up and actually proved their mastery, which I have nothing but respect for. And I feel as though, and I do agree that everyone can have different levels of mastery and still create content. You could have somebody who's a great combat medic player, but a terrible heavy assault player and do a guide on the combat medic, but because that's where their mastery and their authority is. I wouldn't trust that player to do a heavy assault guide though. Um, so
You know what, Kami? Can I admit something to you, brother?
yeah,
I feel like I
yeah,
still don't know what you're talking about when you say authority.
yeah. Really,
I still don't get it, man.
to me, how do I explain this?
I feel like like, you're trying to not say something almost.
To me,
Are you trying to not to keep from offending someone? Is that what's going on?
I don't know. Maybe like authority to me is a matter of saying, "This is what I know. This is how I know it." I guess part of me sort of comes down to part of me sort of comes down to the point of if you don't know what you're talking about something, and you're not willing to make the effort to learn about it before you make a piece of content or a piece of distributable media for it, you shouldn't
Mhm.
be talking about it. You can
Mm.
discuss it, but don't project yourself as a point of knowledge and as a point of, as I say, authority
Mhm.
without having the substance and the experience to back it up.
So it sounds like this is a critique.
This is a critique of what I see a few times from people.
In the
I'm not going
Planetside
to name
scene
names.
specifically?
I have seen it in the Planetside scene quite
Mhm.
recently, in fact. I'm not going to name names on this one, um, but I've
But it
seen
bothers you, it
pieces of
sounds
content.
like. Like, it's something you really it's something that you really don't like to say.
Yeah, I don't like to. Yeah, I don't like seeing people talk about certain things from a sense of from a position of command and a position of I know what I'm talking about
Yeah.
when you can't back it up materially,
Okay.
um, or with that knowledge. I've seen it recently, um, in the Planetside community and out of it, where people talk about something and they say that this is how you should do something, or this is how you know you should. This is how to do something, and they can't back it up with either for one their own footage or whatever.
Mm.
So,
Okay. Okay.
like as I said, I've got no authority talking about the air game, so I
When
don't.
when you see those, um, bad invocations of authority, let's call them,
Mm.
um, why do you think that happens? Are people
Um,
trying to be manipulative, do they think? Or is
I
it like
think
a situation like a Dunning-Kruger situation where they overestimate their command?
I think it's more a matter of overestimating as well, and I mean, like, we all do it especially in the content creation industry, new content creators do it all the time, I think, like, if you come into the content creation game to a brand new game and you start commanding a sense of authority as somebody who hasn't spent the time mastering that side of the game, or at
Mhm,
least getting as good as they possibly can at that side of the game, for
mhm,
example, with their given circumstances, then they sort of come up from a place of not fakeness, but disingenuity, I think is the word I'm looking for there.
uh-huh, uh-huh,
Um, and yeah, when you have people sort of search for content to make that isn't in their domain of authority, it kind of
mhm.
shows for me.
Mm. Yeah, I understand that. I understand that. I think that that's a big part of the
Yeah.
reason why I made a gaming podcast that ended up being about people instead of about games.
Yep.
Um, you know, I still remember when I invited Rel onto the podcast for the first time, and for some reason he said yes. Uh, I was like, "Fuck me, what am I gonna ask Rel about? Like, if I start talking to him about balance and shit, I'm gonna get crucified because I'm
Yeah.
not that guy to ask those questions." I knew that in my heart
Yeah.
of hearts. Um,
Yeah.
we talked briefly about how Combined Arms was received and whether it was successful or not, but I am not fit to pick that one apart. Not the guy.
Mhm.
So what can I talk to him about? Well, I can talk to him about what it's like going from being a YouTuber to being a developer, the path he's
Yeah.
taken, the community interactions. That I understand a lot about. And
Yeah.
that's been my through line is
Yeah.
what is this person's truth? How can I visit with whatever is meaningful to them? And what do we share that we can bounce
Yeah.
off of? That's where my authority comes from, I suppose. And when I
Yeah.
talk to Rel
Exactly.
again, I am once again probably not going to go as deep on design and
Yeah.
balance as many would prefer. And instead, I'm going to talk more about human stuff. And I think
Yeah.
Rel also, I think he likes to talk about just, I think he prefers
Yeah.
to stay in the game stuff sometimes. But
Yeah. I agree. He does. Yeah. Because yeah,
and we
I
love him for
remember he's
that.
like, oh, yeah, we do. We do.
I
Like I
remember
remember he's old. Like,
during our first interview, I kept relinking it back to the story of Rel, and he's like, but let's talk about the game. And I was like, nah, man, you're on the interview. It's in the Planetside 2
uh,
interview. This is a Rel interview. It could be about
relative.
you.
Yep. Yep.
Anyway, um,
Sounds like Rel.
yeah,
Sounds like
yeah,
Rel.
yeah. And
Mm.
so I guess that's where I connect with what you're saying.
Yeah.
One of the great truths for me that I've come away with, it's really happened for me at the end of the year. I made a piece of content talking about it called "The Day I Quit New World." Um,
Sure.
I needed to hit a big reset button for myself on the way I used
Yeah.
games, in a big way. And I realized that in a lot of ways, I had been projecting some needs that I have onto gaming communities and video games by implication.
Ooh. Okay.
I became aware of it in a way that I wasn't before. And I
Okay.
realized that in a situation where I'm logging in to a multiplayer game because I want to have a certain kind of multiplayer experience, that
Yep.
maybe the truth was I knew in my heart of hearts, my better angels knew that the thing that I wanted wasn't really there in the first place. And I needed to do something a little more difficult to get what I wanted. I needed
Sure.
to, I don't know, like say build a streaming community, or maybe I needed to um, go find a meetup group, or maybe I needed to give my parents a call, give my siblings a call. Like all these things that
Sure.
I feel like they have much higher barriers to entry to me than just playing a video game with other people in it.
Yep.
Maybe I don't know exactly what the right answer is. I'm still figuring that out. But
Yeah, of course.
what followed from that was realizing that I had been picking apart things in other gamers and creators especially that I didn't like because I was I was hard on myself for those very same things.
Yeah,
I
okay.
I saw the thing in myself that I most disliked or resented in others, and one of the people who that really came out with was when I was in my honeymoon phase with New World at the end of last year. Josh Strife Hayes, I don't know if you know who he is.
Not familiar myself, but go on.
He's an
Who is he?
MMO YouTuber. He
Sure.
has a YouTube series he does called Worst MMO Ever. Which is literally just
Nice.
like a 30-minute MMO review series, but it's all couched in the language of negativity. And that bothers
Got
me.
it.
Um,
Yeah.
and he started making all these videos about how awful New World is and how unsuccessful it is, everything it does wrong. And I really felt like
Right.
he was missing something important about what it did well. And I really felt like
Mhm.
that was a reflection of bad faith, that he didn't have the authority to speak.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and I found that really, really annoying. I even made a
Yeah.
video called Gamers Are Wrong About New World, where I
Wow.
accused them of going to a steak restaurant and being upset that chicken tenders weren't on the menu. Um,
Yeah, okay.
and I think
Yep.
there's some there's some aspect that what I said about that was correct. I think I wasn't wrong, but what I wasn't seeing is the fact that that person was just doing the thing that I hated about myself. That they were focusing on the negatives. That they were not trying hard enough to understand. And I have the same
Mhm.
focus that maybe you do too, where I put such a high expectation on myself in order to feel successful. I am so worried about failing that I expect so much from myself that when I see others don't expect the same thing from themselves, I think they're the ones fucking up. When in fact, the truth
Yeah.
could be that it's more of a comment on how I see myself. And realizing that, like, stopped me in my tracks. I was like, "Oh, fuck. Like,
Yeah.
what have I said? What does it mean?" And has really given me
How
a
have I
lot of
done this?
permission to let other people do what they're gonna do and try to focus on myself, brother, because I am the only one I can change. And
Yep.
the truest authority we have is over our own actions. So
Yes,
people
sir.
who's one of the things I like to say about Planet Men is that I think a good analogy here is if you use a shotgun, you're hurting not just the people you kill, but even more so you're hurting yourself.
Yep.
And the people who speak without that authority are usually doing as much wrong as bringing as much bad on themselves as anything you could possibly bring. So,
Damn.
but that just happens to what you just said just happens to connect in a weird way to something I've really been working hard on. I thought I'd share that.
Yeah. No, that is true. It's yeah, it's something I can sort of, relate to a lot. Like this past year, one thing I've been sort of really focusing on is making sure that, in life I myself, yeah, you can only ever focus on the people and the relationships in general that you see yourself fitting into nicely.
Mm,
As you say, you only have an authority to change yourself.
yes.
And if there's a relationship out there that you don't see working well for you anymore, you don't have the authority to change that person's life to fit you.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
that person will make the decision to make their life fit with you instead.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, that comes at like there's got to be compromise in that balance that needs to be struck there. Of course, we all know that every healthy relationship comes at a certain degree of compromise at any given
Yeah.
point in time.
Give and take. Mhm.
But that I think is more so the authority of the two individuals coming to a mutual agreement to change to make those puzzle pieces fit, and less so of one person having to make the entire decision to use all of their authority to make that stick.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen situations where sometimes it's one person who's trying to contort themselves to match an image that someone in a relationship has, and this could be a parent, or it could be a child, or a lover. Like it could be lots of things. It could even be like a
Hmm.
streamer or a creator. Like there's weird parasocial stuff that happens.
Oh yeah,
It doesn't just have to be, a romantic partner,
no, of course,
but
yeah. There's a lot of
uh,
different.
yeah, or situations where someone is quite assertive in saying, "Here's the way I think
Yep.
things should be. I know what's up, and you need to shape up, or here's what I think you should do." Um,
Yeah.
that's so hard because, especially in a romantic relationship, and I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but I'm just going to go with it. It is
Yeah. Go for it.
you. It is such an important pillar of your life to have that work, and it is such a high risk endeavor to pair bond with somebody who you don't know if it's going to work out with. I've been married to my wife for almost a decade. This is our ninth anniversary coming up. And
Congratulations.
thank you. Our relationship looks nothing like what it looked like when we got started.
Yeah.
Fucking nothing.
Yeah.
Um, and there
And
were
and
multiple
sometimes.
points where it was either bend or break.
Yeah.
And we both had to bend. I wonder
Yeah.
if you relate to that.
And yeah, I was going to say that's the most important word that you just said there in that situation of we had to bend or break, we both had to bend.
Yeah.
That to me is the most important word right there. Like, yeah, I can relate. Like, my last relationship, like, and like you sometimes don't realize that things are going to break until you're a few years in.
Mm,
Um, People change over time. Sometimes you don't change with them. Sometimes they don't change with you,
yeah.
and you realize that that breaking point reaches sooner. Yeah, I can relate to that. So, at the end of the day, you need to then, make that decision and say, well, I have the authority to bend, but how far do I want to bend before I start becoming unhappy in the situation?
Yeah.
And the only person who can make that decision is you.
Yeah.
So,
How many days a row
yeah.
am I gonna load my partner's dishes in the fucking dishwasher?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
Just put scratch marks on the dishwasher door every day you do it. Just prison
Put it in
style.
blood.
Oh god.
But yeah, so it sounds like you made the hard choice to move on from one relationship, and maybe you've started a new one.
Yes. Yeah, I have actually.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very
Well,
happy as a result.
that's very exciting, and it sounds like you also took
Thank
some
you.
time to refocus on yourself too, and
I did. Yeah.
embody your
Yeah.
personal authority there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was very much about that. Like I understood like for once in like for the first time in 3 years, I had sort of total control. Like I don't want to say control because that sounds like it was a lot like it was a lot more controlling than it was. I had total um what's the word I'm looking for here? I guess total freedom in a loose sense. Like I had my whole day to myself,
Yeah, okay.
outside of work, and so I had every opportunity to do what I wanted and felt like I needed to do
Yeah.
to what I needed to do. So it was nice to sort of rekindle and refocus and restart, sort of get a new chapter in life going.
Mhm.
Starting a potentially a new career,
Yeah.
starting a whole bunch of new stuff. Yeah,
Make room for something new. Clear a lot of space. You know, I
exactly.
feel like I did the very same thing, but my relationships with a video game
Hey, yeah, yeah, yeah.
over the
True.
holidays. Bro,
Yeah,
us gamers
yeah.
have some fucked up relationships with video games. Straight
We
up.
do, dude. Oh man, it is yeah, like it's almost parasocial again, like the whole streamer and viewer relationship that we see a lot. It's just that but with a video game,
You know,
essentially.
I don't even know if parasocial is real. I feel like it's all social. And it's just every single social interaction has these layers of distance and artificiality to them. It's like a point on a continuum, not like a binary thing. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, man. Okay,
yeah. You're
dude.
right.
Well, I like how we're ending this on a soulful note.
Yeah,
I
I agree.
highly
I
approve of
agree.
that. Anything else you
Me
want to talk
too.
about, Kami?
I don't know, man. Not much is. No, I think we've hit so many different things going. Like today, like we've been down so many roads.
Yeah. You put in
Um,
a solid 3 hours and change. This is a good one.
this is a good one. This is a really good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm. There's not much else going on for me. I'm excited. Motorsport's coming back for me soon. So yeah,
Cool.
that's really it. To be
Cool,
honest.
man. Any content projects we can look forward to seeing from you in the near future?
Um, what is coming up soon? Carbine tier list will be soon.
Ooh, I'm excited about that. Where
Yeah, yeah.
spoiler me, where's the NS11C? That's my favorite.
I believe it's in C tier actually.
What? Fucking dare you. God.
In
Alright.
my defense, it was community voted. It was community vote. We
Uh,
did that on a stream
people are so
together.
wrong
So
sometimes. Okay, we'll have to
yeah, I
check
know,
that
right?
out.
I mean, the
Maybe I'll
kindred's
get
not
some
in S
React
tier,
content
so
out of
what?
it.
Hey yo, true. That's gonna be a long one. I want to do another implant tier list, but
Yes, the implant tier list coming back. Let's
we'll get
go.
there
Another
eventually.
1,000
We'll
hours
get
of editing.
and another like 50 infographics that are spelt incorrectly again. So
Spelling's overrated.
dude, spelling's a construct. If it looks correct, it's spelled correctly. That's all I'll say.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's what I'm gonna
Ah,
go
well.
with too. Thanks, man.
Mhm.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'll give my own little outro too. I'm Deeg, I'm the
Of course, Deeg.
podcast guy. So, I'm interviewing Rel next week if you're watching this live. Highly recommend you subscribe to my YouTube and hit that bell button. The bell thing. Is that what you say? I'm still getting used to how you say that. I don't.
Yeah, yeah. Subscribe, hit the bell, like, all the good stuff.
Yeah,
Yep.
do what he said if you want to check that out. And at the end of the month, a new expansion for Guild Wars 2 is coming out. I know.
Exciting.
I don't know if there are a lot of Planetside players who also like Guild Wars 2, but it's something else I'm passionate about. I've interviewed a few developers on that team. We talked about Guild Wars a couple times. Yeah, I think that's true. And I'm
Mm.
going to be
Need to
streaming
get
that. I
back
actually
into
took
that
the
one.
week off from work to play the expansion,
Oh,
which is something I haven't done in years. So I'm gonna be living it up.
I did that for Battlefield. Imagine how much I hated myself after that one.
No, no, fuck, dude. I ache for you. Ache for you.
Ah, yeah, it was bad, bro. It was bad.
Oh God. All right.
Just
Well, that's painful. Well, hopefully, what's coming up next won't be so painful. And
I
I
agree, dude.
also know that we're getting a roadmap very soon from Mr. Rel.
Yes.
So it'll be very exciting to see what direction our favorite um, massively multiplayer online first-person shooter will be taking.
Yes, sir.
Camikaze78, Deeg, a match made in heaven.
Yes, sir. It's been a pleasure, Deeg. Thanks for having me as always, brother. It was good.
Was my pleasure. Thanks everyone for watching, and thanks everyone for listening in. Catch you on the next one.
Take care, guys.